What is happening out there, Rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Monday show, everybody. Nice early start, 2:15, right on the nose. Actually meant to get us started at 2 o'clock today, but forgot to schedule the show. It was like 10 till, and I said, oh, that doesn't work. So a little bit later than I originally intended, but nice and early for us. Little 7-gamer to talk through today. Should be a good one. Really interesting looking slate. Solid split between, there's some really high-end pitching. There's also some really good-looking spots for bats. Kind of like what we're working with here. We've got maybe some good spots that the slate, the public won't totally be on. So hopefully we can take advantage of those. We've got a big prospect debut for the Reds today. Unfortunately for them, it comes at the expense of Ellie De La Cruz, who went to the IL. But Edwin Arroyo making his debut at the dead min price on both sites. Definitely an interesting wrinkle in what was one of the top stacks of the day already. Looking kind of fun. Cujo's here. Clintwood's here. Stephen B. Good to see you guys. Couple people trickling in. Early start time. We'll see who gets here live, who ends up watching on the replay. Either way, if you get a chance, hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel. Come back after the video and leave a little comment. I gave the thumbs up when I meant comment, but leave a comment on the video. Tell me I'm smart. Tell me I'm dumb. Whatever it is. Tell me you don't like my glasses. I don't care. Whatever you want to say in there, everything feeds the algorithm. So it does help. Really appreciate the people who've been doing that every day, coming back and making sure to leave a little comment there. I always go back and give you a little thumbs up or a little love. So really appreciate you guys a little bit more than I appreciate everybody else, who I appreciate a great deal, coming here every day to hang out and listen to me talk baseball. Really fun to be able to do this for you guys every day. I know Clintwood was excited about being here today, off from work. Love it. Love it. Sounded like he had a good day going. Killing time waiting for a couple people to trickle in. Ducking is here. What's going on, Ducking? Good to see you. I just updated the Vegas board a couple minutes ago. We'll run through this as we get started. Still haven't finalized the stuff for that I was talking about the other day with some of the new back-end wrinkles. I've got some of the sims from the FanGraph game sims run on the back end again. And I'm going to maybe refer to them as we go through the show, but I haven't added the DraftKings scoring to the top stacking tool. I haven't really gained any confidence in what these percentages look like down to where I would really want to be confident in. Yeah, those are realistic numbers versus these are good directional tools right now. I think they're landing in the right spots. In other words, they're landing mostly in the right order, how I would expect them to, but I'm not sure we're right where we want to be as far as publishing numbers yet. Got to monitor these things. I don't love rushing new tools out to market, as you guys have seen. Out to market for the few people who know that we even exist. But I don't love putting new stuff up on the website unless I'm pretty confident in it. But we'll get there. But meantime, I can look at that in the back end. The real interesting wrinkle, I think, on this slate is going to be the performance of these guys. And their total just dipped. That went down to 7 in that game, with the Mets plummeting down to 339, 340 implied runs. But they're beating that in projections. They're beating that in game sims. They're going up against Emerson Hancock at the end of the night in a pitcher-friendly park. Everything is working against the New York Mets. They haven't even been particularly good through most of the year. Got some interesting players, some good DFS names, some decent prices. But they're definitely defying that Vegas total quite a bit as far as our fantasy numbers are going right now. So that's going to be a definite inflection point to this slate. Did what we could trying to manage the spot, but they're coming in 4th or 5th on our stacks board. They were 3rd best as far as the probability of 4-man stack, probability of 3-man stack. That comes down to a measurement again in the new tool that's not out on the site yet. That comes down to a measurement of which group of 3 guys, which group of 4 guys from any of these teams comes out the best through the sim process via fantasy scoring for set up for FanDuel. But it doesn't necessarily reflect the full top offense. So it doesn't 100% always jibe with the Vegas total. So if I look at that, I do have top offense as a separate column. And if I sort by that, It's the lowest the Mets dropped to on that board, but it's still 5th. It's not crazy separated from 8th where the White Sox are, but it's getting there. And then the bottom of the board, there's significant separation. So either the tools are overrating the Mets for this, season-long projection tools are overrating the Mets, or there might be something to that spot sneakily for DFS purposes. Emerson Hancock's been mostly terrific throughout the season, though. That's at the end of the night. Coming back to the beginning of the night, we've got that really interesting-looking Reds team. Even without Ellie, this is already adjusted. 8.5 run total in that bandbox ballpark they play in. 4.91 implied coming down on the Cincinnati side. Just looking like a fantastic spot. They're going up against Luinder Avila, who I do at least have to give a little credit to over the last year plus at an advanced level. He has been pretty good at limiting home run power, including so far in the show. So he's got that working for him. He's given up 1 home run over 21 and a third to 95 hitters so far this season in the majors, and was pretty good limiting power in AAA last year. It is making a little bit of an impact on the Reds, but they're still drawing that really interesting 4.91 total. They're a team loaded with guys who can hit for a little bit of power, but also do other things. And again, that big debut for Edwin Arroyo comes from that team. Definitely going to have some Reds in my lineups today. The Royals on the other side, they're going to be facing Chase Burns, who I feel like we haven't had enough Chase Burns in our lives on main slates this year. Seems like we always miss him. He's pitching in afternoons or like a 6:40 start on a 7 o'clock main slate. I don't know that we've had him more than 3 times maybe on main slates. Top end pitcher, one of the top projected starters of the day. Fire away against KC. They're coming in at a 3.70 implied total. There's usability there in any given slate sense, but they're not overly appealing outside of the key hitters. Really interesting one in the next game. The White Sox, no Murakami for the next few weeks. He's out 3 to 4 weeks. That is a much different team with no Murakami in the lineup. They still got Colson Montgomery in that big bat, but that's now a team full of just contact hitters with limited options to drive them in. So they're going to be looking a lot more like last year's White Sox. They're going up against David Sandlin, who made the 6-inning pretty spectacular debut the other day. Wasn't fully on the radar. I forget whether that was a day where we had a show or maybe I just didn't love him through the projections. I had him, I think, in the low 20s. Today he's more mid upper 20s. He might have even cracked 30. Where is he? That's not the tab I wanted. He is mid 20s. Very differently priced. FanDuel to DraftKings, by the way, as you can see. FanDuel's already reacted to the 1 start. DraftKings has not. The interesting thing about Sandlin, he's a big-time strikeout prospect he's one of these guys who's completely erratic, walks the world when he's not totally found it, and had that problem throughout his minor league career. He was really strong in the first outing, went 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run, struck out 4, and very importantly, in his major league debut, walked no one. That was against the Twins, the White Sox. The Twins. Talking about this the wrong way around, by the way. I started talking about the White Sox, and then I started talking about their pitcher because he's the interesting pitcher. Didn't mean to do it that way. It's Joe Ryan on the mound for the Twins. We'll get to Joe Ryan. He's obvious. I just got overly excited about David Sandlin, and he was the first name on my list here. So Sandlin's facing the Twins. It was the Twins that he faced the other day and had that good start against. In his minor league outings, he was typically making shorter of 5-inning starts. Did not complete 5 innings, 4 innings twice. Does have a little bit of erraticness to his game based on the walk issues. So know what you're buying going in. It was a 35.1% strikeout rate against a 14.9% walk rate, 32.7 against 11.5 last early in AAA. Last season, 23.4 against an 8.8, 25.4 against 8.0. So we've got some issues with walk to deal with. It could go bust, but at the DraftKings price, that's an interesting pitcher. going up against a gettable Twins team. They come in at a mid-4s implied total, 4.40. It's not ideal, but I think he's a nice appealing value on this slate.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Thanks. I got it. Alexa chiming in. She's doing it again.
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
It downloaded an upgrade the other day, and I feel like it's gotten even more sensitive. It's reacting to the TV all the time now. Anyway, Joe Ryan going up against that diminished White Sox team. As I got sidetracked talking about how degraded they are by the lack of Murakami. He looks pretty terrific. Obviously, there are times where it can get away from Joe Ryan, but by and large has been terrific this season. Had a 5-run day all the way back on April 1st, had a 4-run day on the 23rd. That was 7 total runs, but only 4 of them earned, gave up 2 home runs that day. That was really his worst outing of the year. Has not given up more than 2 earned runs in a start since then, has pitched mostly deep into games, 6 and change innings, 7 2/3 in the last one against these White Sox. Plenty of upside for Joe Ryan. Landon Roop on the bump for the Giants. Solid pitcher who keeps the ball in the yard effectively. He has been really, really good. Holding things down in the absence of Logan Webb, and with Webb back now, that enhances the Giants rotation. They might be able to get things going out there. Coming in against the Brewers, 4.08 implied total for them. They're playable back the other direction, but not an overly appealing spot with his ability just to check power. Has worked deep into some games, shorter outings and others. Comes down to what his efficiency looks like. Not a monster source of strikeouts, but he's been pretty effective for K's this season. 68 over 60 innings this season. So better than a strikeout per inning so far on the year. Typically, we expect him that might be fair to give him going forward. It's Shane Joan making the start for the Brewers, and I say making the start because I think it's an important distinction. There's a lot of places talking about Chad Patrick for this one, and I don't think, my read anyway, is that it's not a pure opener-follower situation. I expect Shane Joan's going to go at least 3 innings here. He's a multi-inning reliever. That's how they talked about the start. They talked about Chad Patrick. He's been bounced around a little bit. They're not entirely sure what his role is, but it's a multi-inning role, but maybe not as a straight-up follower either, but not as a pure starter. So I think this is more a short start, traditional bullpen game type thing. We might still see Chad Patrick for 2, maybe even 3 innings behind Shane Joan. But I didn't actually project Chad Patrick. I projected Shane Joan for 3.5, whatever I ended up giving him. I don't think either guy becomes overly relevant to the slate. I could be wrong. If Chad Patrick comes in for 5, there's a shot where he has a decent day. It's just a 3.5 total on the other side. The Giants have been bad all year, so that's a gettable spot. Keep an eye on any reporting. I'll have it updated as we go through the afternoon. The Rangers against the Cards. Jake DeGrom looking pretty terrific. Top projected pitcher on my board, top in Sims. I know he's been a little bit less than the best possible version of DeGrom, especially in a couple outings recently. 6-run game, 2 starts back against the Angels, a 4-run game the start before that against Houston, a 6-run game going back against the Yankees on May 5th. Not the best May for DeGrom, but last time out, struck out 6 against Houston, 2 earned runs on 4 hits over 6 innings. It was fine at worst, and the price is down. For the way that he projects in this spot against that young gettable Cardinals team, I like the upside. 3.66 implied total for the Cards. Going the other way, it's Michael McGreevy. I think we can certainly play some Rangers back against McGreevy. I was asked not to say that by a Rangers fan. Sub 4 implied total, so they're also easily avoidable. They hit kind of in the middle of the board across all projections, sims, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think they're at all necessary, but I do think they're playable against McGreevy. He's a high contact pitcher who has been okay, but limited effectiveness. Go-to spot of the day, perhaps. 4.75 implied total on the Angels. They're showing a ton of power upside. They're going up against Kyle Freeland. I don't think it's going to be any kind of secret that we can target Kyle Freeland, especially with all that right-handed power in that Angels lineup. But they're showing quite a bit through Sims. They're second behind the Dodgers in all things game Sims. They're second, I believe, in my stacks board. Projections look great. top of the home run board, if I'm not mistaken. They look tremendous right alongside the other LA team. The Rockies on the other side going up against Jose Soriano, who should give them all kinds of problems. Love the looks of Soriano up at the top of the board. Don't like the Rockies all that much. 3.35 implied total for them. Soriano's been a little bit diminished in more recent starts than he was at the beginning of the season, but that's a great, great spot, and he can still find the effectiveness even in diminished form. So no worries about that spot at all. Diamondbacks. Dodgers, Diamondbacks. 4.75 implied total for the Dodgers. Top of the board, going up against Erod, who has been pretty effective throughout the season, even in big spots against good teams. Wouldn't stun if he had an okay day against these Dodgers. He faced them all the way back at the beginning of the year, March 28th. Had an okay day coming out of that WBC performance. His first start of the year went 5, allowed 1 unearned run on 4 hits, struck out 5 and walked 2. On the year, 66 and a third. He's pitched to a 2.31 ERA, but a 4.20 xFIP on the year. So eventually this all goes away. It's not real. He's not punching hitters out, only 49 strikeouts over those 66 and a third innings. He's facing the Dodgers. They're showing tremendous upside. Every reason in the world to go to the Dodgers and think that Erod finally goes bust. But it wouldn't knock me out of my chair if he succeeded. He's built up enough faith. He's also pitched deep into a number of games this season and been kind of interesting. So maybe a dice roll if you're willing to take your life in your hands against the Dodgers there. LA has Emmett Sheehan on the mound. He's feeding some visible upside toward the Diamondbacks. 3.83 implied total, 3.84, nothing special on the Vegas board. They're coming out kind of in the upper middle, lower middle, upper end of the bottom tier. But I think there's quality at least at the top of the lineup in any situation. Emmett Sheehan, good starter, decent strikeout stuff when he's going right, but he's been erratic through the year. So I think maybe if that Diamondbacks team gets a little bit lower owned, they're just a little bit more interesting than some of the less than teams on this board. And then the Mets, going back to this game, the Mets at the Mariners. On the Mariners side of it, they're going up against a pure opener-follower situation with Austin Warren making the opener appearance, and he's going to be followed by Sean Manaea by all accounts. Neither one of those looks too appealing, but Manaea over 5 innings can put together decent starts. He projects kind of okay, but I gave him slightly less than a full 5 innings. The Mariners on the other side don't look that great, but we know they could find it on any given slate, and definitely against this kind of a situation. And again, Hancock I would play, but the Mets are just coming through numbers weird. So something to be aware of. You'll see where Hancock is. He's right there on the board with all his peers, with the guys that he's been pitching like. Dramatic difference in price, I'll say, on Emerson Hancock. A lot more important on the DraftKings board at 8. What I would hope on FanDuel is that maybe the 10-1 by comparison to a very desirable Jose Soriano spot. Joe Ryan against the limited White Sox. Chase Burns just being who he is, though he's more expensive. And then certainly DeGrom at the top for a lesser price. That probably does knock Hancock's popularity down, even with that low total, even with a scuffling Mets team. Maybe we get him a little bit more lightly owned just because there's so many other appealing options. But that's a really good top end. Nothing to dislike in really any of those spots, any of those pitchers. Everybody's pitched at least pretty effectively this season. Every one of those guys has pretty solid upside in those matchups. There's nothing really intimidating. It's arguably, even in the pitcher park, Hancock is in the worst matchup of all those guys. This version of KC, White Sox without Murakami, definitely the Rockies, definitely the Cardinals. So, rough as they've been on the year, the Mets still have a deep 9-man lineup. Then Sandlin, definitely interesting. Again, that 7,000 stands out on DraftKings. I think there is upside. We could find a decent strikeout day. That Twins team has a 95, I want to say, WRC plus against right-handed pitching as an active roster. Yeah, 95 WRC plus, 22.7% strikeout rate. They only walk at a 7.8% clip too, so maybe they don't exploit any kind of walk issues. I like the upside for the kid, but it could easily go pop. 91 on FanDuel probably renders him a lot lower owned than he ought to be, and definitely lower owned than on DraftKings. I will say that if I'm at, a stack that I really like, and it's sitting there with 9,200, I'm probably more likely to just put Sandlin in my lineup at 91 than sacrifice a hitter that I really want to get the extra money to pay up for Jake DeGrom. Not that I don't want Jake DeGrom, not that I want Sandlin more, But I think I would make that move because fewer people are going to do that than try to get to Jake DeGrom in that situation. And Sandlin's just going to be way less purely owned. Not that he shares strikeout upside with DeGrom, not that he shares, ceiling with DeGrom, but there will be a little bit of leverage-based upside there. Sheehan's interesting at price on both sides. Could easily pay off a little bit of ceiling there, and if he's getting through the top end of that Diamondbacks lineup, definitely upside. Definitely help for the lineup from the ballpark on both sides of that one. So that works a little bit against the pitcher here in the numbers, but that's a good price, and Sheehan has a significant upside on those numbers. Roop is interesting at 89, 85. Solid middle of the board projection, but the ability to go 7 if he's pitching clean and nice and efficient game with a lot of ground balls. No reason to try and avoid him. I would work him into some FanDuel lineups. He's not a priority. The DraftKings price does bounce off the 8, the 7, and the 78 for Hancock, Sandlin, and Sheehan. I don't love how that works just because the Brewers don't need the home run ball to succeed. They sequence so well. They get on base so much. So there is visible downside for that money on DraftKings, but that is probably another spot, like I was saying about Hancock, where the 85, just by comparison to some of the other value plays on the slate, probably renders him a little lower owned than his talent might dictate. Manaea is at least a consideration on DraftKings at 55. If you're getting 5 innings of Sean Manaea, there's upside there. He can find the strikeout. That's the best pitcher park in the league, going up against the Mariners lineup that's been very up and down. I don't love it on FanDuel just because, difficult angle to the win, no shot at the quality start. 71, even at price, probably not great. Erod, you're just deciding whether or not you want to tackle the Dodgers for the price on either site. We all know what Erod is at this point. McGreevy, you could throw that dart at Texas, but I prefer tackling Texas at home, and they're showing a little bit of upside going back the other way. But again, not a priority in either direction. 65 puts McGreevy more into the conversation as an SP2 on DraftKings for sure. 84 on FanDuel, take or leave him. He's just a dart over there at a pretty mediocre price. Not a ton of strikeout upside in that spot. Avila, probably a short, 5 inning at most out type of day here. High danger spot against those Reds in that park, 6,000, 5,000. Again, maybe checks the power upside. Don't really like it. Joe, and I don't think you're getting more than 3, 4 here, 4 innings max. But he has thrown multiple innings out of the pen basically all year. Maybe you get Chad Patrick, maybe you don't. What's Patrick's price? Yeah, Patrick's 8,000 on DraftKings, 74 on FanDuel. No guarantee you're getting more than like 2, 3 innings. I don't think that's a play. That's why, that's why I just kind of left him out. Freeland's a big no. Austin Warren's just an opener. Anthony Y5X, appreciate that, man. Anthony says, this is great info. Where do I sign up? The website's rotoscouts.com. And actually, as scrolling across the bottom of your screen, you can see it right now. It's always under $1 a day for access to all 4 major sports while they're going on. Every single main slate projections, a lot more data and content for MLB and NFL. But you can see scrolling across the screen, you actually have free weeks available. Free first week if you use promo code CubsWin when you check out on a new weekly subscription. So you go to rotoscouts.com right now, sign up for a new weekly subscription, plug in Cubs Win, all one word, capital C, capital W to start the words, and you get a free first week. It'll renew at regular price, which is under $7 for your second week if you don't cancel it in between. But that's celebrating our guy, XX Cubs fan, and his big wins and his just constant presence in the top 10 on FanDuel this year. It's kind of getting annoying, if you ask me. We gotta shut that down. Or we got to get more people up there, a little bit more variance. Or we got to get him to put the Rotoscouts logo in his goddamn screen thing, avatar, whatever it's called. I appreciate Dennis. Dennis sponsored the bulk of those. There were 30 at the beginning. There are no longer 30 available. There are still some available. He put up a bunch of them, and then I put up the rest to get us to 30. But yeah, check that out. That's for everybody who is wondering or been wanting to check out Rotoscouts or just wants to access some different projections than whatever they're using and give them a look. Totally free, no catch. Promo code CubsWin. Scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. Take a sip of coffee. We'll get into this. Cap Captain America Bleeds says, I bought into a questionably high dollar contest tonight and have Joe Ryan as the pitcher. Any pushback on that tonight, Terry? Not really. I think it's a great spot. Again, the White Sox, very diminished. We can skip ahead. It's the next game. Spoiler alert. But Ryan's been pitching really well. Sub-3 ERA with a xFIP and Sierra right in that same kind of territory. We've seen this kind of quality from Joe Ryan before. The one issue with Ryan is, and I would be more frightened of this if Murakami was here, is that he can give up the premium contact. He's a fly ball trajectory pitcher who does allow hard contact. This year, he's managed it fairly well, 9.6% barrel, 41% hard hit, 89.7 miles an hour of exit velo, and he has kept the ball in the yard effectively, which has an impact on the surface, on the ERA number, of course. 157% home run rate this year. Stuff's measuring out great. He's inducing the swinging strike this year. The walk to strikeout is great, pitching deep into ball games. So, yeah, fire away against this gettable version of the White Sox. This is skewed a little bit, this 19% strikeout rate for this lineup that you're seeing. You got a 0 in there. You've obviously got some Ks right through there. Antonacci, Miguel Vargas are appreciably low strikeout. Tristan Peters has been. We'll see what he actually turns into. But you pick up some with Drew Romo down there. Nishida has not proven to be much of a bat. We'll see what that looks like. But definitely an upside spot for Joe Ryan. So, yeah, no issues whatsoever with it. And the price is right, too. $9,000, $9,800. That's more Joe Ryan priced against the Murakami yes version of the White Sox. So, yeah, fire away. We'll get back to that, and I'll probably end up saying all that stuff again in just a few minutes. But first, let me hit the confirm lineup button here. Let's see if we got any lineups in. A couple games that are on this slate. Oh, good. We did get the Reds. Arroyo drops to 8th, but at least he's in the lineup. I had him 7th. Oh, and McLean's in there too. How about that? Steer, McLean, and Arroyo. Who isn't in the lineup? Friedel's not in the lineup? Is that who it is? Yeah, no TJ Friedel. Interesting. I thought McLean would sit. Friedel be in there. All right, so both lineups in for this one. Monster total for the hometown Reds, 491 going up against Luis Avila. One start on the board, several bulk relief appearances for Avila. It amounts to 21 and a third. Again, has been effective at keeping the ball in the yard. 9.3 degree average launch allowed in the small sample. He's walking way too many. Again, tiny sample, but walking way too many against a pedestrian strikeout rate, 5.06 ERA, 4.39 xFIP, 4.29 Sierra. Way too many guys on base in general. Plenty of upside for base hits. Plenty of upside for doubles and triples. This ballpark should help with the issues for power. That 9.3 degree average launch will help you keep the ball in the yard, but it's not everything, and it's not negative something. It's not Framber Valdez in his best days. 9.5% barrel rate exposes some of that. It means these guys are finding the launch angle necessary to hit a home run against him. He does have decent stuff as measured by Stuff Plus. There's potentially a pitcher here, but right now we're also dealing with somebody who hasn't thrown more than 3 innings. I gave him 4 and change here in a full start. He'll be followed by obviously several innings of bullpen work that will also feed some upside to the Reds. This Royals bullpen's been all over the place this year. So plenty of reason to go to the Reds. They sim out great. They were number 3, I think. Again, this is 4. That's right, because of the oddball Mets. So they were 4 by top 4 probability on FanDuel scoring, but they're 3rd if I reorient it by just probability of being the top offense. Both the Dodgers and the Angels are above 11% probability in that category, and then it dips to the Reds at upper 8s, 8.73 per this. And then we've got a pretty tight board down all the way to the bottom, with the Cardinals bringing up the bottom at 3% against Jacob deGrom as to be the top offense. Again, that's per Fangraphs game sims, and that top offense number is just the collective, the whole 9-man for the game sims, the 10,000 sims, probability of being just the top scoring team on that board. The top stacks boil it down in a fantasy sense using FanDuel scoring. That's why it's a best 3-man, best 4-man. In that sense, it's still Dodgers and Angels up at the top. But then again, the Mets are creeping up the board in a fantasy sense. That Mets group that it was around primarily is Carson Bench, Bo Bichette, Soto, and Jared Young, which is interesting. There's some cheap prices in that. They combine well, especially on FanDuel, with some of the other lineups. So just something to bear in mind as far as the board works. But the point there was the Reds look really good. One of the top 3 teams in basically any sense on the day. Top 3, top 4 teams. A lot of power upside in this lineup. A lot of multi-category contributors in this lineup. The big rookie debut at the dead min price on both sites. Going on the other side, though, the Royals at 369 implied going up against Chase Burns. Debatable usability there. You could use Bobby Witt against basically anybody at 5,700, 3,700. He's a little bit discounted on both sites. 286, 350, 474 on the season. He's hit 9 homers. He's stolen 17 bags. He's the only guy on the team coming in above a 10 in the home run model. There's upside with Bobby Witt against anybody. Burns, on a bad day, too many walks. 8% right now is entirely manageable against that 28.9% strikeout rate. 15.2% swinging strike rate is tremendous. He's pitched to a 1.96 ERA, but he has a 3.13 xFIP, 3.19 SIERA. Those are the more realistic numbers. That's who he actually is. But those are still tremendous numbers. If he was coming into this game with a 3.0 ERA, we'd be talking about how good he's been. Sub-1 whip is tremendous. Fly ball trajectory, that could be problematic on the wrong day in this ballpark for anybody. 3.21% home run every now and then one gets away from him. But overall, excellent at punching his way out of trouble if anybody gets on base with the tremendous strikeout stuff, the ability to miss bats. One of, if not the best option on this slate, projects only slightly behind Jacob deGrom, but you're paying more for him, 10-2, 11-1. That's a big premium. He was difficult to reach with the FanDuel combos I wanted without compromising somewhere on bats, which is perfectly fine to do, obviously. If you're going to the Royals, top of the board, Carter Jensen, nice and cheap at 3,300, 2,700. That's interesting. For a catcher on DK to be at that price in this ballpark, lefty bat against a righty who does have the ability to give up a little bit of power. Jensen has slipped over his last 100 and change plate appearances, nowhere near where he started the season. 228, 308, 398. A lot of normalization going on. 7 home runs, a 311 WOBA with a 275 now ex-WOBA, a 93 WRC plus. The numbers are downright problematic, but he has still made decent to good contact throughout the year. And if people are flocking away from that, one for the matchup against Burns because Burns is in their lineup or because they think Carter Jensen's bad, he's not. So great spot in the lineup, great price. That's an interesting play if you're considering going to Royals. And honestly, even against Burns, that's an interesting guy to keep in mind if you're just thinking I'm going to one-off catcher somewhere. That's a pretty cheap price for the upside. Vinny at 35.28 has really been scuffling overall. 208, 297, 333. A 309 ex-WOBA, 75 WRC plus. What did he do this last week? I feel like that came up slightly. Last 30 plate appearances. We care not at all about this in any real sense as a sample for anybody who's not been here before. This doesn't mean anything. It's just nice to see a very good hitter that we've known for several years now to be a very good hitter, maybe start to put things together. Over the last 7 days, that's where the little bump in the numbers came from. Got him over the Mendoza line. 280, 400, 400 with a 121 WRC plus, 2 runs, 2 ribbies. That means that amounts to 7 for 30. 3 doubles over that stretch. Take good signs where you can find them. Vinny's really gone through it this year. The same thing happened over a shorter stretch last year, and he turned out to be just fine, had a basically career year. What I will point out is strikeouts still sub 20%. Walks are actually way up at 11.3. There's some interesting things going on there. The contact hasn't been anywhere near where we're used to seeing it. That's what's really evaded him this year is the premium contact numbers. Even in his lighter hitting years, he was still a 40+% hard hit guy, 45.8 with the barrels that were lacking that season. And then he put it all together with barrels that last year. And it's just fallen apart so far this year. But if you're going to Royals, it's a big time upside bat that I would not skip against this pitcher in this ballpark. Jack Caglianone sliding up the lineup into the 4 spot, 3,000, 2,600. 5 home runs for Caglianone. What we love about that bat, and I'm noticing no Sal Perez in the lineup today. Monster premium contact. Doesn't show in the stat line so far at all. The 333 xWOBA is the closest thing to showing off that premium contact that he makes, but this is utterly elite contact when he actually connects with the ball. They're few and far between. 30.8% strikeout. He also doesn't really draw walks. He doesn't get on base that frequently. He doesn't create runs all that often when he's not connecting with baseballs. But there is major upside, star caliber upside in that premium contact. So again, if you're just going to the Royals, you absolutely want to include Jack Caglianone. He's nice and cheap, 26 on FanDuel, 3,000 on DraftKings. You get the added first base eligibility, which is nice on FanDuel, but you're probably also going to have Vinny, so you probably want to stick him in the outfield, not double up first in util. Everybody else in this lineup, from Isaac Collins down to Kyle Isbell, that's essentially all the same type guy. They're all mix and match guys. Everybody can contribute a moderate power. Everybody can contribute a stolen base. They don't have the best on base skills down there. Right now, you're getting a 344 out of Lane Thomas, who has been good in the past, but overall 208, 344, 267, 1 home run, 3 steals, and 81 WRC plus, and nothing to like about the weighted on base numbers. He'd be the best, probably just in a pure vacuum. Take this year's numbers entirely out of it, probably the last year or so as well. He's probably the most talented guy in that group, but there's an argument to be made for Michael Massey. When he's connecting with the ball in this manner, he can be interesting. He's also affordable. He also fills second base. Nick Lofton, more of just a low-end mixer. Isbell had an interesting start to this year, but is only at 252, 303, 378, 3 home runs, 5 steals. And again, they're going up against one of the slate's best pitchers. Really not a strong argument to roster Royals outside of contrarianism for contrarianism's sake, and the interesting guys that basically everybody who does it will have in their lineup anyway. So there's something to be said for being contrarian for contrarian's sake, but when you're being contrarian while walking hand in hand with the people who are also being contrarian in that way, it's not really doing much. You'll be in a smaller group. You'll be offset. You'll have some leverage. You'll have a high probability of having the exact same thing as some of those other people. On the red side, Blake Dunn, 37-28, coming in with a decent slash line over 70 plate appearances, not really making any kind of interesting contact, not really drawing a high walk rate, gets on at a 343 clip, but that's mostly BABIP based. So he's putting the ball in play and finding some success there. But you can see where the overperformance is. 335 weighted on base, a 270 xWOBA. That speaks exactly to that problem where he's only succeeding on some balls in play via some happenstance, where the ball lands, where the fielders were, and his ability to beat it to first base. Right now it's working out, 108 WRC plus, not paying any kind of tax for the success, so he's entirely playable. If you're going to the Reds, he fills an outfield spot, but he's a lower priority bat outside of the ability to correlate directly to the guys that we want to get to. He's a filler piece, mix and match type guy, just another outfielder ultimately. JJ Bleday has been incredibly interesting this season. 128 best plate appearances that we've seen from him in the show so far. 14.8% barrel, a 50% hard hit rate. He's got 9 home runs and 128 chances, slashing 303, 398, 642. Star version of JJ Bleday. Nobody saw this coming. 5,200, 3,900, fully priced, paying a tax on FanDuel, I'd say. Carrying a 441 weighted on base with a 415 xWOBA, though, so there's no signs of slowing down right now. It's still fairly priced at 52 on DraftKings, considering all the success. Also considering that we don't have an Ellie De La Cruz to pay for in this lineup today. You get a little bit of a discount on the Reds while they maintain a lot of quality. Sal Stewart has been all over the map. A dozen home runs, 10 stolen bases, really interesting there. Pretty low strikeout rate, especially for a guy who hits for this kind of power. Draws a decent walk rate, gets on at a 356 clip. 14.7% barrel, really interesting. Just a 40% hard hit rate. Doesn't match really at all. 362 weighted on base, but a 371 xWOBA, 127 WRC plus. Tons and tons of upside. There's power. There's walks. There's the ability to get on base and create correlated scoring. He's 47 on DraftKings. It's a great price at third base. You have a conflict with him and Eugenio Suarez, which is a big issue on that site. 3,800, he's fully priced. Really, really expensive, I'd say, on FanDuel. Third base, you want to fill, but if I can get to Suarez for 2,800, I'm going to do that a lot of the time. I think the field probably does do that same thing, which probably renders Sal Stewart a little bit lighter owned on FanDuel. They probably come up closer to even because I think people are willing to pay the $600 difference on DK, even though Gino is by far the more proven high-end bat. He missed a lot of time at the beginning of the season. 130 pretty weak plate appearances so far. Did hit a home run over the weekend. Hopefully finally getting his feet on the ground now that he's been back in the lineup for a week and change. Monster premium contact upside, monster power upside from Gino. Got to pick your third baseman on DraftKings. You can have them both on FanDuel. That's not necessarily the ideal way to build with this team today. So big time upside for Gino at that $1,000 discount to his counterpart there. Nathaniel Lowe's been interesting at first base. 3,300, 9 home runs on the board, a 343 on base. We've seen good stretches from Lowe. I've said this before, but this is we're out toward this is usually around the end of the stretch, 140, 100 or so plate appearances. Right now, it's holding together. 387 weighted on base with a 384 xWOB underneath it. So it's been essentially entirely real. 144 WRC plus. It's a lot to like. A lot of barrels right now. A lot of hard hits. So definitely a part of my lineup. 3,300, 3,000. He was a part of the top end stacks that we were seeing in game sims. Spencer Steer, 4,000, 3,000. A lot of positional flexibility. Love the idea of putting him at second base when you're building with this team. 7 home runs, 3 stolen bases, and 223 chances. Been fine. 345 on base, a 116 WRC plus, downright good. The reason I say it's been fine is because I think there's more under the surface. 13% barrel. The hard hits are down somewhat, but he doesn't strike out a lot. He does draw a walk. That's a characteristic that we've seen from him in the past. And he's got a 372 xWOBA lurking under his very good 346 actual. So there's another 25, 30 points of weighted on base potentially to come from Spencer Steer. Really interesting, especially for the money at 3,000. You can stick him in at second base with some of these other options. Tyler Stevenson's just a downright interesting catcher any given slate on DraftKings. He's always affordable, 3,000 today. Major upside for premium contact. Right now, 12% barrels, 44% hard hits. Identical numbers to previous seasons. 4 home runs on the board and 164 chances. Just ignore the fact that he's at 199, 299, 326 with a 75 WRC plus. He is carrying a 332 xWOB under his terrible 286 actual. There's more just sustainable ongoing upside for Tyler Stevenson going forward. But on any given slate, you just don't care about that slash line. You're just looking for the one good bat at ball event. And against a pitcher like Luindo Avila, there's plenty of reason to believe that he would find it. Matty McClain at 33 at 27, 5 home runs, 7 stolen bases. Once Ellie's back, if Edwin Arroyo finds any kind of success, we might see Matty McClain lose his job. But right now, getting a shot alongside the kid. McClain entirely playable at second base, but Spencer Steer makes it at least a conversation, especially from a better spot in the lineup. And McClain at 294 on base, not exactly giving you the skills that you need to wrap him around and count on him for correlated scoring back at the top. So if I'm dipping down to the bottom of the lineup, give me Arroyo anytime. And if I'm taking somebody for second base, probably more interested in Steer. That probably does leave the multi-category capable Matt McClain more under-owned by comparison, but he's significantly more expensive than Arroyo, and he's probably not as good as Spencer Steer. And then the kid, again, mid price on both sites, perfectly fine asset to use at shortstop. Numbers on the season in AAA so far this year, in 250 plate appearances. He's only 22 years old, by the way. This is on track / early. 11 home runs, 9 stolen bases, slashing 323, 383, 562 with a 143 WRC plus. Monster 240 ISO, striking out to 16.8%, 7.2% walk. That's 520 plate appearances, all at AAA, level at which he had not played previously. Last year, 521 AA plate appearances, only hit 3 home runs, stole 12 bases, solid slash line, 284, 345, 371. The power outburst is, not a total surprise, but it's him catching back up to who he was supposed to be. He had a 13 home run season in high A as a 19-year-old, 534 plate appearances back in 2023. 13 homers, 28 steals, just slashed 248, 321, 427, but had a 107 WRC plus. Super interesting player back then. A lot of prospect pedigree coming up as a home run, solid 15, 18 home run guy with a lot of steal upside and potentially more power now. So really, really interesting option. Must add, I added him in across season-long leagues last night. I had him in the Dynasty League. I had him like 3 weeks ago. had our eye on this kid, and now he's here. Got to get him into lineups. My hope is he doesn't get as buzzy because they didn't announce it yesterday. They waited until today, until the imaging on Ellie came back. They put him on the IL this morning. I expect Arroyo gets very popular, but I'll keep my fingers crossed that somehow he sneaks through for us. That is a major asset in a go-to lineup today. Given where Chase Burns is priced, yeah, I'm going to say Reds bats, Chase Burns. They're both tremendous options. Probably Royals bats over Luis Davila. We already talked about Joe Ryan briefly. Burns scratched. Well, that's different. How about that? No Chase Burns. Lyon Richardson is going to open. Whoever the hell that is. And then the Reds called up Brandon Liebrand. Well, that's interesting. Appreciate you guys letting me know. That's going to put the Royals more on the board, I would definitely think, just given this ballpark. By the way, no weather conditions at all today. Are we? Nope. Are we expecting? I don't know if we're expecting Brandon Liebrand to pitch. That was... He's probably good for like a 3-4 inning bulk relief because it did say they had announced an opener. So you might see this Brandon Liebrand for a few innings in bulk relief. I wouldn't imagine he's going to be a play. I'll get him on the board. I'll figure out what they're going to do here and get him on the board. I would think it's a targetable situation. Liebrand's no prospect. He's 33.5. Left-handed. Quad A guy. If this is who's even pitching in bulk relief. Yeah, at age 33.5, he has 15 innings of major league experience with a 5.28 ERA and a 6.20 xFIP, and has pitched to similar type numbers, 4s and 5s, 5s and 6s over the last handful of years, as far as runs throughout the minor leagues at AA and AAA in his late 20s into his 30s. So I don't think he would be a option for DFS if he's pitching at all. And again, I do think that'll fire the Royals up a little bit, and they would get more interesting. Just to swing back on that, that makes all four of those guys more interesting, assuming they roll out the same lineup. And then it would feed upside for some of these guys that I kind of breezed past just because they're at cheap prices now in this situation, right? So Lane Thomas, who is, was only meh against Chase Burns, against these guys, now that becomes more interesting because that's a very cheap price on a guy who, again, over the last 2 years has missed a lot of time, or year and change has missed a lot of time. Going back to 2024 was okay for counting stats, but not overly good, and then was terrific in 2023 across the board. So he's been kind of missing the last year plus, but that's a good player potentially in there now facing a minor league pitcher, potentially a minor league pitcher, or the bullpen in a bandbox. I would expect to see the Royals total go up by half a run, something like that. So they get a lot more interesting top to bottom. Michael Massey, again, get the Well, if it's a lefty follower, then maybe less so. Lane Thomas would be the guy I'd keep an eye on down there at those prices. Anyway, we'll move on. I'll clean that up after the show and get the projections updated to reflect no more Chase Burns. Appreciate the breaking news by chat. Caught up. Yeah. Sometimes I don't have chat right in front of me if I have the Excel sheet up as I'm talking through the different lineups. Clintwood, no problem, bud. Glad you were able to pick them up. I drop those from time to time in Discord when there's a big call up or hot pickup for season long. We're a DFS site, but I try and do what I can for season long. Before the season, I did some rankings and best ball rankings. So try and do what we can. I would love to do a waiver wire column every week, like 2 starter pickups and waiver wire pickups, because that's like, that's what I sit here for hours digging into that stuff. I kill it. But I'd be giving away the farm in my dynasty league, which is why I don't do it. Those guys would absolutely read my stuff and take the guys I want. Anyway, White Sox 369 implied total. Doesn't look like these lineups came in when I clicked the button a minute ago. Joe Ryan, again, looks tremendous. Has been pitching great. Solid 22% strikeout minus walk rate, an 11.9% swinging strike rate, the sub-3 ERA. All the XFIP and Sierra in the world to say that everything is real. We've seen Joe Ryan pitch at this level in the past. The one issue, as I called out before, does tend to give up a little bit of premium contact on a fly ball trajectory. It's just less of a concern. You can see Colson Montgomery standing out at that 11.49 because nobody else is even above 7. You do have a couple guys in the 7s in the home run model. There's a little bit of power around Miguel Vargas, certainly, who has 13 home runs on the season and has been making truly elite level contact. Andrew Benintendi's been making good contact with an upgraded hard hit rate, but he's not good and he's not that guy, and it's resulted in essentially nothing. 232, 279, 381. I continue to think Benintendi in any spot in this lineup is overrated, but not overpriced. So he's playable, but he's just another outfielder. Nobody to get excited about, not really a threat to Joe Ryan. Could certainly drive one, though. Again, has been driving the ball with effectiveness. Is a lefty bat, so don't be shocked, even though I said he's not all that appealing. Don't be shocked if Benintendi's the guy who gets Joe Ryan for the cheap home run today. Montgomery is the much more likely candidate. Sam Antonacci, 6.9% barrel, but only a 35.3% hard hit to start his career. Has 1 home run on the board, but hasn't really been hitting for power. A .087 ISO, not really finding the extra base hit upside. What he's been really good at is just getting to first base, creating havoc on the base pass. He's got 8 stolen bases. He's got a 113 WRC plus, a 369 on base, solid WOBA with an even better xWOBA under the surface. Antonacci's been really good, remains interesting at 4,000, 2,800, significantly better than in Andrew Benintendi, just doing different things. Chase Meadroth is a similar type talent. Chase has found the power a little bit more this year. Just a 123 ISO, so it probably doesn't go anywhere. But a 6.1% barrel is interesting for him. 37.6% hard hit. He's hit 5 home runs. Ultimately, probably also just a contact-oriented hitter who succeeds at getting to first base, creates some runs. He's stealing fewer bases than his counterpart up at the top of the lineup, but both those guys are interesting. Both those guys are playable within a White Sox stack. It's not a situation where you only need one of them. They create enough runs. They do enough interesting things. But ideally, when Murakami's there, we probably only want one. In this form, if you're going to the White Sox against Ryan, you can play them both. I would try and work in somebody from behind Chase Meadroth if I'm using them both, though. In which case, slim pickings in this projected version of the lineup. Tristan Peters hasn't exactly been hitting the ball all that squarely, despite a little bit of success at 289, 353, 408. You might just be piling a third guy like that into your lineup if you use Peters in that role. Drew Romo may be interesting, maybe more interesting for DraftKings at 36 as a catcher. 5 home runs in 72 plate appearances is not nothing. He's made some okay contact in a few batted ball events. No frequency. The reason I say okay is because there's not been frequency of good contact, but he does have an 11.1% barrel rate. So he's found ideal contact from time to time. A 111 WRC plus is also kind of interesting. Just a 333 weighted on base and an ugly or a below average 317 xWOBA. Nishida just kind of targetable for Joe Ryan here, I think. A low end contact oriented hitter. So really not much threat, especially in this version of the White Sox lineup. Fire away with Joe Ryan. Don't love the White Sox today. On the Twins side, 4.39 implied total. Again, David Sandlin, I think, is interesting. Had a good first start. The stuff graded out really well. The xFIP, the Sierra for the first start, as you can see, should have given up more earned runs overall. Came away with no walks in that one, but was walking the world in the minors. Oh, I pulled these. I didn't need to look this up. I forgot I had it on my sheet. It was in the minors this year, 35.1% strikeout against a 14.9% walk. That is still a 20.3 strikeout minus walk rate, though. So significant upside to pitch well, and if he's able to wrangle the control, he could put something together against the Twins team that scuffles against right-handed pitching. Over 1,297 plate appearances against righties this year. The active roster has a 238, 305, 395 collective slash line with a 95 WRC plus right here. 311 collective weighted on base. That's below average. That's below average. All of this. 157 ISO. Byron Buxton's a superstar. He's a massive threat to anybody. You know that going in. Top of their lineup. He's obviously a major threat to turn this kid's day, especially at 9,100, in an awful hurry or just multiple times over. He makes elite contact. He's got 17 home runs already on the season. He's got a 303 ISO, 331 weight xWOBA under the 379 weighted on base. I bet you he continues to defy that, or this just goes up throughout the season. We know how good Byron Buxton is. I would argue the second most threatening bat is Cody Clemens. He's only 3,400 at first base. Outfield on DraftKings, 2,800 with second and third base eligibility added to that on FanDuel. He's got 6 home runs, 5 stolen bases on the year, which is interesting enough for fantasy purposes. Slashing just 233, 309, 436, but has a 202 ISO under the surface. 324 xWOB under the 329 weighted on bases. Nothing overly special there, but a productive 108 WRC plus, so he's creating runs in a positive sense. Excellent 13.9% barrel, 42.6% hard hit is okay. That's down from 48.3 last year. The barrels are not at all uncharacteristic. Well, at least over the last season and plus in his growth. So that's just kind of who Cody Clemens is. He's also playing every day. He's getting opportunities against lefties this year. He's really interesting, and he's still cheap. There's upside there. If you're choosing to target the rookie, I think there's plenty of upside available in Cody Clemens, in Byron Buxton. Going to Brooks Lee as a filler option at third base, at second base on FanDuel, 2,900, 3,600 for a guy who's found some success this year. Not unfair. 8 home runs, 3 steals, carrying a 106 WRC plus on the season, but you can see the overperformance. For one, not making great contact. Kind of exactly where he was last year in terms of the barrels. Hard hits are actually down by about 10 percentage points. Hasn't cost him yet. 327 actual WOBA, little bit above average, but a catastrophic 271 xWOBA waiting for him. So he's going to fall into that pit at some point. But right now, if he's hitting second in this lineup, especially between Byron Buxton and Cody Clemens, somebody kind of interesting as correlated scoring. Josh Bell's been hitting the ball fairly hard this year. Only 5 home runs to show for it. A way substandard slash line, a 73 WRC plus, terrible weighted on base numbers. Not much here, but he's very cheap. You can plug him in if you're overstacking the Twins. Trevor Larnach at 4 at 3,000, mix and match piece. 3 home runs on the board. Does get on at a solid 363 clip. It's also similar to the 367 so far on the season for Austin Martin. Both those guys mix and match pieces through the outfield. Where Austin Martin maybe gets interesting is at second base. I'd rather have Cody Clemens there. Cody Clemens. More of an argument between Austin Martin and Brooks Lee as far as who you'd rather have there. So far, Martin maybe holding up a little bit better. The 332 weighted on base has a 323 xWOBA underneath it rather than the 327 versus 271 for Brooks Lee. So a little bit of a strength to the argument there. He's getting on base more frequently. Probably the more interesting player when it all boils down. Much better walk rate. Caratini, capable of driving one from the catcher spot. He's only 2,900 on DraftKings where you need the position. The barrels are down this year. The hard hits are down so far this year. It's a small sample still of 162 plate appearances. I expect him to put it together. We've seen it too frequently from him in the past, but you're talking about putting it together being a very infrequent contributor who you just throw darts at. So don't expect too much, but he's awfully cheap. Luke Keeschel, solid mixer, underperforming his talent so far on the season, not underperforming what he's been doing at the plate, right? What he's been doing. I think he's a more talented player than everything that's happened, the underlying stuff and the on the surface stuff. Just been a disappointment so far this year. But I would continue to mix him in as another consideration at second base for this team. And then Tristan Gray, kind of a dart throw at the bottom of the lineup, mix and match type talent, 234, 291, 362. Nothing special about that. Assuming he didn't also get scratched, I'll say Joe Ryan at the top of this board, followed by David Sandlin on DraftKings, Twins bats, David Sandlin on FanDuel, and then and only then the White Sox bats. Hit that like button, subscribe to your channel one more time. Well, I'll probably say it multiple more times, but scrolling across the screen, you can see our regular price, under $1 a day, all in for all four major sports, every single major main slate. A lot of the throw-in slates for football, it's every single game. If there's a football game, it gets projected at Rotoscouts. There's also deep content for football, deep content for baseball. But more to the point, with promo code Cubs Win, as you see it there, all one word just left your screen. It'll come back in a moment. Capital C, capital W, all one word, Cubs Win. There are free weekly subscriptions available. Your first week is free, not ongoing, but your first week will be free. We'll renew at regular price, which is under $7 on the weekly. There's also monthly and quarterly plans available. But check it out. With that promo code, there were 30 when I put it up at first. There are fewer coming into today. There's probably fewer now, but there's probably still some available. Promo code is CubsWin for a free weekly subscription, free first week. Give that a look, rotoscouts.com. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel as we roll on with this slate. Landon Roop on the mound for the Giants. Looking pretty interesting, 8,500, 8,900. I think maybe, as I was saying in the wind-up for the show, maybe just kind of falls by the wayside because he's facing a frisky enough Brewers team that comes in with a 4+ total, because he projects mid to lower 20s rather than the top end of the slate. At these prices, I think he could give you a solid 6+ type day. He's thrown 60 innings in 11 starts on the year, striking out 27.4. He's walking a few too many at 8.9, but it still amounts to an 18.5 strikeout minus walk, which is pretty good. Typically, we're looking for 20 as a measure of excellence. But 18.5 for a pitcher with this much experience, not bad at all. 3.30 ERA with an even better 2.98 xFIP, but basically matching 3.28 Sierra. So he's been who he looks like on the surface. Managing barrels spectacularly, 2.6% barrel, one of the lower marks in the league that I can think of. 8.6 degree average launch. Look how he's inducing weak and medium contact. 26.3% hard hits, 86.8 miles an hour of exit velo. He is lethal on the home run numbers. Takes a lot away from the Brewers as far as the power output goes. As we've talked about throughout the season, this team is fantastic at sequencing, though. There's a couple killers for this down the bottom there at 266 and 284 with Luis Renifo and Sal Frelick. Even with those guys in, that's a 9-man 329 on base. If you scroll up, you leave those two guys out, you're at 344. If you're just looking at the top 6 hitters in the lineup, that's a 349 on base over the top 6. These guys are excellent. Same group, top 6 hitters in the lineup. That's a 342 actual weighted on base. 330 xWOBA. The overperformer right now is Christian Yelich, who I fully believe in as far as outperforming that xWOBA and correcting where that's at right now. 114 up and down kind of plate appearances on the year for Yelich. But I think he puts all the pieces back together like he did last year. Maybe we don't reach we probably at this point don't reach the 29 home runs, but we probably still see some decent increased power output over where he was for a couple of years. I think the Brewers are playable going back at Roop, but it might be a spot where it's just a little bit, if you're not going to use Roop at those mid-board type prices, maybe it's a spot that's just best left alone on both sides, because he can do interesting things to limit the Brewers. They could put a few runs on him where he doesn't totally work for 85, certainly 89 the way he lands on FanDuel. But again, you probably do get a leverage point from him being a little bit lower owned. Shane Drowan, I expect to go about 3 innings here and then we'll see what happens beyond that. It might be Chad Patrick, but I don't think we're dealing with, unless they announce it, unless something changes. I don't think this is a pure opener situation because he is a multi-inning guy, and they've talked about him that way. I wouldn't want to use him here. I wouldn't want to use Chad Patrick, especially not how he's priced. So I don't think there's any upside for Brewers pitching, even though they're facing the lowest end team in the league. Where you would pick up upside is if they come out and say, Drone's just opening, Chad Patrick's a bulk reliever coming in for 5+ after Drone in that setup. Then we would have a different situation. If that happens, you'll see Chad Patrick land on the board. If you see Chad Patrick gain a projection, that means I think he's suddenly usable. Put it that way. Daniel Pope. Happy Monday. Do you preference the batting order in your stacks on DK, like only 1 through 6, or it doesn't matter to you? It is more desirable always to have the top end of lineups. For one, that's where the best hitters are going to be collected. You're also, of course, dealing with the highest price and the most ownership up there because everybody, that's where the best hitters are. Everybody's going to flock to those guys. You also gain a little bit, especially at the top couple spots. You gain a little bit of additional plate appearance opportunity, just by the cyclical nature of how those lineups will roll. So you get a little bit of additional upside through that, but you're just buying the talent, you're buying the correlation up there. And then as far as what you want to do with the lineup spots is just think about how far removed somebody is from the guy you're trying to correlate him. Because the reason that we're stacking is not just because in a vacuum, this team looks good against that team. So I don't care that, this guy, it's to grab some of that correlation for if those two guys are on base and this guy hits a home run, everybody's adding to their scoring total. Everybody's rising tide effect. Everybody's floating you up the standings. So you want to have guys that'll be connected to the other guys' scoring events. It's difficult to create enough separation where they'll be entirely disconnected, but stacking guys between 1 and 6 altogether, the guy hitting 6th is going to be more directly correlated to the guy hitting 2nd than potentially somebody hitting 7, 8 in a lineup would. There is return to correlation from the 9 spot to the 2 spot because it wraps around the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th times through the lineup and beyond. That guy loses plate appearance potential as the 9-man, but he gains correlated scoring value because he is actually connected to 1, 2, 3. So you got to just think about how those lineups, what the actual mechanism there or the dynamics of how those lineups actually work. I don't take anybody out. I don't focus on only wanting to get to the top guys. A lot of times you'll have a great bat hitting 7th. A lot of times your value guys will be down lineup. You can pick up speed down there. Sometimes you get on base and correlated scoring through that. And like I said, interesting wraparound plays, a lot of middle infield types down that way. So every spot in the lineup is going to be important. You're going to frequently find your best bats are going to be 1 through 6. Your natural go-tos are going to be there. That's a good way sometimes to look at it, just to put a button on this too. If like say you only had an opportunity to glance at ownership and you just went like, all right, I'm going to go, or like a top stacks board. I'm going to go just to avoid some public ownership because I'm in a hurry to the 3rd or 4th best team on this board and just try and jam players in blind because I've got 2 minutes to get a lineup in that I forgot I had to edit. Then I would just say like, yeah, go to the 1 through 6 hitters. Unless you know who you're looking at, that's a good shorthand for who are the best guys going to be. Look at 1 through 6. And that's kind of why I break it for the home run model as well. I have the full lineup and then the top 6 in the home run numbers when those go up on the site and the power index. Hopefully that helps. It was probably too long of an explanation. But anyway. So the Brewers a little bit in play just with our on-base skills, their ability to maybe exploit a little bit of walk disadvantage against Landon Root, but really not popping off the board, and a spot that is easy to dance around here. Going to the Giants against the opener follower situation, also not all that appealing. 3.5 implied total for them. They've been basically awful throughout the year. Luis Arias is hitting 321, might compete for a batting title again this year, but it's going to be in a completely empty season. 321, 363, 422, a 121 WRC plus for him. Rafi Devers is maybe slowly pulling things together. 253, 300, 432, up to a 104 WRC plus. Still an ugly 294 xWOBA under his 317 actual, but at least the 317 actual is approaching the league average. He's up to a 10.1% barrel, 49.4% hard hit. I remain unconcerned about Rafi Devers finishing the year looking pretty much like he normally does, just like he did last year. but it took us a minute to get here. I would consider him the go-to guy, and he's still cheap at 42.31. You get that going for you, but not a ton of upside in this lineup around him. Casey Schmidt's been decent, 294, 332, 548, their best bat at 146 WRC plus, but probably some illusion in there. 380 Woba, but a 357 actual. But if he comes down to 357, it's still terrific. Don't get me wrong. 19.9% strikeout, only a 3.3% walk, so a lot of the on-base percentage coming via the BABIP right now, but he is driving the ball effectively, so that's not crazy surprising. 14.6% barrel, 45.2% hard hit on the year, so you can defy weighted on base xWOBA through that. You can find a little bit more success while you're driving the ball. And again, if it comes down to 357, you're still dealing with a high-end player who can hit a lot of doubles. Willie Adames off to a really slow start again, but 243, 281, 426, 8 home runs on the season, 309 weighted on base with a 290 xWOBA under the surface. Again, really concerning, but the more concerning guy, because at least Willie's still making okay contact, 9% barrels and 43% hard hits. Matt Chapman isn't even doing that. 4.8% barrels, 33% hard hit on the year. That is completely different than we've ever seen Matt Chapman. This is a guy who has been elite for contact over the years. Really dead on the vine right now. 232, 310, 323, and 84 WRC plus. Yikes. Daniel Susac, just a mix and match quality catcher, but 293, 354, 397. Pretty decent 66 plate appearances as far as just getting on base. So maybe a little correlated scoring upside. If you get Jesus Rodriguez, that gives you another option at catcher for a very cheap 2,300. He's got a pair of home runs in 43 plate appearances, mix and match upside. Victor Berrocoto, dead min price, 2,100 on FanDuel. Gotta say, I don't know much about Victor, including whether he's in the lineup or whether they've confirmed it. 6 home runs and 186 plate appearances down on the farm. Pretty good slash line so far this year. 15 in 464, mostly at AA. 393 plate appearances, AA last year as a 23-year-old. 12 home runs, 267, 351, 433. It's a decent enough line. Kid tracks basically on time. Basically average-looking traditional scouting numbers. Fangraphs has them as their 21st organizational prospect. Nobody overly interesting. I'd say mix and match type talents down the bottom of the lineup. Giants giving some of the kids opportunity to play here. Might as well use this season for that. Cox, 27 stolen bases this season in 183 plate appearances. That's interesting. Stole 58 in high A last year. Stole 58 in A ball up to high A the year before. So back-to-back years with 58 stolen bases. You can't really argue with that when he's got 27 already this year after a promotion to AA. Was slashing 400, 453, 644 over 183 plate appearances in AA. So that's as a 24-year-old, so a little bit advanced for AA, but he had never even reached that level before. He was around 6th pick in 2023 out of Oral Roberts. 70 grade speed per traditional scouting, 37th overall prospect via Fangraphs. Interesting for the speed. Maybe somebody should be more on the radar for like a season long for stolen bases. But a mixer at the dead min price on DK was not available on the FanDuel slate when I put this together earlier. If he gets in there, I'll try and add him. Going to the Brewers side, as mentioned, Christian Yelich, underperforming as far as the xWOBA goes, but everything else is intact. He's got a 112 WRC plus. We just need to start driving the ball again, and all the success will continue, and it'll just look better and better. Jackson Chourio at 51, especially at 34 on FanDuel. That's really interesting. 266, 317, 404, an okay start over what's now 101 plate appearances. A little bit lacking for power, 2 home runs, but carrying an 18.5% barrel rate and 47.7% hard hit that tell me he's going to start hitting those home runs. 320 weighted on base with a 315 xWOBA, needs to get himself together there, but just a 104 WRC plus, a few points above average for run creation appreciation and plenty of ceiling on that player. Bryce Terang at 54, at 39, their most expensive bat. Worth it. 7 home runs, 9 stolen bases, getting on at a 391 clip is elite. 375 ex-Woba under the 369 actual, 137 WRC plus. Tremendous bat with the ability to drive the ball effectively for doubles, the ability to hit the occasional home run. 7.8% barrel. I told you that was coming back down. 7.9 last year. It was a major gain last year. He needs to try and stabilize and stay right where he was last year. If we go down further, we start losing a little bit of the perceived value. William Contreras, monster opportunity at catcher, 4,800, 3,100. Solid hit tool, 295, 361, 401, getting on base like crazy, creating a ton of runs, 117 WRC plus. Really still very effective at the catcher spot for 48. 3,100 on FanDuel, mix and match guy, type talent because we're putting him at more consideration, first base. Jake Bauers at 43 with outfield eligibility, a little bit more than just another outfielder. 9 home runs, 4 stolen bases. Excellent slash line at 280, 351, 491. He's created runs 35% better than average by WRC plus, second best on this team. He's been downright interesting all year, and DraftKings really hasn't noticed. 12.2% barrel and 52.7% hard hit. 32 on FanDuel, maybe up slightly from where he started the year, but not their usual overreaction price. That's a bargain on Jake Bauers. Garrett Mitchell's driven the ball similarly. He's also been interesting for that, but he hasn't found any results for it. 3 home runs, 6 stolen bases. He is getting on base regularly, a 350 on base, but that's driven a lot by that 14.6% walk rate more than anything else. Really hasn't found the success for how he's been delivering premium contact, but that could flip in an awful hurry, and that makes him a really interesting, just any given slate guy who is cheap for the upside and underowned when you go to the Brewers, even within Brewer stacks. So like I said about the Royals, you want to get away from, even within the subset of people who go to that team, you still want to try and get a little bit different from even those people. And Garrett Mitchell, probably a good way to do it if you're within the group going to the Brewers. Renifo underperforming on the season, kind of a low-end mix and match piece anyway, but fills multiple positions. At third base only on DraftKings, that's really skippable. Sal Frelick, just another outfielder right now, but more talented than he's been this year. We saw that throughout last season. David Hamilton, just a mix and match type guy. I think it's Landon Roop. Brewers bats. Giants bats, because I don't really want the Brewers pitching situation. Not a great game. KDKYRIE2 says, I like the Yelich home run call. That's an interesting call. Nothing but upside for Christian Yelich. Player we like a lot. The big issue there is if you're making a bet on Christian Yelich, I don't know that I would do that. If you're calling Christian Yelich out for upside for DFS, fair price, absolutely. If you're calling Christian Yelich out for I'm going to go bet the house on him hitting a home run today, that I would tell you to hesitate, just because of how good Landon Roop is and has been this year at limiting home runs, limiting premium contact, limiting hard hits, barrel rate, keeping the ball down at just an 8.6 degree average launch angle. And this is what he was doing last year in his 22 starts. 9.8 degree average launch, 36.5% hard hit, 88.4 miles an hour of exit velo, just a 2.31% home run. From this perspective, everything that matters for hitting home runs against him, Landon Roop was already elite and has continued that and only gotten better. So sure, Yelich, if you just, I'm going to pick somebody from the Brewers who's going to hit a home run today, absolutely. Yelich is one of the best picks, probably the best pick you could have made from that. But from the entire slate, somebody to go out and bet your house, your car, your family on to hit a home run today, not the best pick. Just because of how good Landon Roop is at limiting premium contact and home run output. Cards on the Rangers. Somebody earlier today was looking to get away from the Rangers. Was it Clintwood? Forget who it was. WDN calling out the Adames revenge game. Sure. Why not? I don't know. What did he do against his former team last year? I don't know if we can look at that. This is not something I would ever try and quantify. I don't think we have. Yeah, we don't have first team on Fangraphs. did have a two home run game against the Brewers at Milwaukee on August 22nd of last year. That was his one good game out of 7. The Cards coming in at a 366 implied total against the class of the slate. Jacob deGrom, 9,200, 9,400 projects out at the top of your pitching board, especially now that we no longer have a Chase Burns to deal with. deGrom going to be loaded up with a lot of hangers on. 29.4% strikeout, a 5% walk rate for an elite 24.37 strikeout minus walk. 3.77 ERA is a little bit high. 3.25 xFIP, 3.05 Sierra, much more Jake deGrom-esque. He is allowing some premium contact. That's the one wrinkle here, right? 5.46% home runs comes with way over the line, and way over the line on a significant fly ball trajectory. So we're getting a lot of balls in the air, and we're getting a lot of them particularly well struck, and a lot of home run output. deGrom is so good at keeping people off base, 17.3% swinging strike rate, just a 5% walk rate on the season, that a lot of the home runs don't typically matter that much. But it can be damaging, as you can see. That's why the ERA is a little bit higher than what he ought to be, and a little bit high for being Jake deGrom. But any given slate, definite ability to wrangle all of that. It's not like anybody not named Jordan Walker has been blasting the ball out of the ballpark with regularity on this team. He's got 15 home runs on the year. Then you get Burleson at 7, Ivana Herrera at 7, 9 for J.J. Weatherholt, who has been good. But it's not a team overloaded with power. And it's definitely not a team that's going to scare Jake deGrom. These kids grew up watching Jake deGrom be one of the best pitchers in the league. He's got a distinct advantage in this spot if we're just talking about the psychological matchup here. Michael McGreevy going the other direction, 65.84, differently priced across sites. Much more on your DraftKings SP2 board. He's carrying an 18% strikeout against just the 6.3% walk. He's been effective, 2.98 ERA, but a 3.82 xFIP, 4.13 Sierra. That's the nature of the pitcher. He's going to be a 4 plus type pitcher overall. He allows a lot of frequency of contact with the lack of strikeout, with the 8.3% swinging strike rate. He's just not burning himself by issuing free passes, not putting a lot of guys on. 1.09 whip is pretty solid for that type of pitcher. He does have an 11% barrel rate, 41.4% hard hit. Little concern there. It comes on a 10.1 degree average launch, so he's okay at managing power. He's okay at keeping the ball in the yard, but a 3.35% home run, probably pretty realistic as far as expectation goes, and really substandard as far as stuff. So in some ways, it's like a batting practice pitcher. He's just really good at locating. I think we can go to Rangers bats against, but again, they're just a middle-of-the-board team, a sub-4 implied total. They don't hit the sims particularly hard. They don't hit the projections particularly hard. So for those of you speaking directly to camera, looking to get around the Rangers today, yes, I think you can do it. I think that percentage that you mentioned in Discord earlier this morning, possibly a little bit high. You might want to consider reducing it. That said, there's no reason to think that your Rangers can't succeed here. It's going to be a lot of contact available. They've got some interesting bats. They've got some guys that we like. I wish they had Corey Seager today. But Jock Peterson's really put his season together. Up to 238, 353, 441 with a 203 ISO, 8 home runs on the board, 350 weighted on base with a 343 xWOB underneath it, a 124 WRC plus. It's a downright interesting version of Jock Peterson now. 9.2% barrels, 45.9% hard hits. He's been good. Strikeouts are right where we want him, 14.9% walk. He's even drawn a little bit of increased walk rate over the last few years. It's back to being the good version of Jock Peterson, 8.0 in the home run model, second on the team behind only Jake Berger at 8.89. Josh Young at 37-31, hitting second. Really good on the season, 316, 372, 495. Back to being good version of Josh Young, and this might be him finally just putting the talent all together. Joker's dreaming under the desk, and he's kicking the side of the desk. Josh Young is a talented guy who we expected a fair amount from. He had some success initially. He's been kind of lost in the weeds a little bit, but really put together a nice 226 plate appearances here. Low strikeout of 15%, 7.5% walk rate. You can see that's 10 points down from the past couple seasons as far as the strikeouts go. Just giving us more frequency of contact. He's always made pretty good contact. Not great, but pretty good, 45.7% hard hit, and you just get a lot of it. Brendan Nimmo, 42, 3,000. Not really priced for the uptick. 257, 336, 414, 7 home runs, gets on base quite a bit. 334 weighted on base with a 385 xWOB under the surface because he's been driving the ball effectively as well. 12.9% barrel, 50.9% hard hit. Interesting version of Nemo back on the board. Berger, again, tremendous upside for power. 10 home runs, leads this team. 247, 297, 437 is a little lackluster, but he's made good contact. 9.7% barrel, 48.7% hard hit. Dirt cheap at 3,600 at first base on DraftKings, too. 31 on FanDuel. The Rangers do give you some value upside for sure. In a points per dollar sense, nobody above 4,200 on DraftKings. That's silly cheap. Against Michael McGreevy? What are we doing? I noticed that earlier when I was putting the stacks board together because they had a good value score on the stacks board, but it didn't really sink in just how cheap the Rangers actually are on DraftKings. That might make them a little bit popular. There's a good argument in both directions. Them being cheap gives us a lot of value potential, reason to go to the Rangers. Might draw too many people there, though. Might be a reason to, again, stay away. Tough call. I think there's probably enough cheapo pitching, especially now that you don't have to pay up for Chase Burns. DeGrom a little bit discounted. I think value might be a little bit overblown when it comes to bats on this one. And that might make the Rangers a little bit more popular than you would want them to be. So yeah, maybe those cheap prices a little bit more reason to around the Rangers. Let other people fall into that pit. But again, there's plenty of potential against a pitcher that gives up this much frequency of contact. I don't want to fence it on that too much. So I'm trying to make a decision for you guys, but it's super close, and it comes down to how the slate sees it. Not going to be something we can really tell until after lock, unfortunately. Evan Carter, 3,900, 2,800. Considering the price being a little bit higher than Jake Berger, similar to all the other guys, he's really been underperforming this year. 199 plate appearances were at 175, 296, 343, a 292 weighted on base with a 302 xWOBA and 85 WRC plus. Really not that much interesting going on there. Supposed to be a solid bat with the ability to drive the ball, solid line drives hitter. Right now, he's just drawing a good walk rate, and that's it. 13.1% walk. That's what's feeding only a 296 on base. But imagine how ugly those numbers would be if he wasn't walking. Ezekiel Duran, not much more than a mixer as far as the talent level goes, but has good stretches. Right now, 39, 3,000. Arguably priced up slightly, but everybody's cheap, so it just doesn't matter on this team right now. What I would argue with more on DraftKings if you're going to this squad, I think, again, you're going to get popular around these guys for the value play, the perceived points per dollar play. Occupying shortstop with Ezekiel Duran, even on a light slate, I don't know that that's the best investment at 3,900. 288, 341, 460. If you had him on some of those days, you were probably happy with it. 4 home runs, 5 stolen bases, but going to come back down to earth and already has probably begun. 350 weighted on base, but a 310 xWOBA tells a lot of that story. Alejandro Osuna, mix and match piece. Danny Jansen, a catcher who can drive the ball from time to time for a very cheap price. 3 home runs, not a lot of success in 138 chances so far this year for Danny. And then Nicky Lopez down the bottom of the lineup is just a mix and match piece, if that. Very light bat. Cardinals against Jake DeGrom. For one perspective, DeGrom is going to be quite popular now at these reduced prices and with no Burns. It's going to make him more of a go-to. So just from that angle, the Cards have been frisky. They've had good DFS days. DeGrom is giving up a lot of premium contact, has been a little bit bumpy with some high run days. There's an argument to be made for throwing some contrarian darts at some Cardinals, and that's a little bit different from what I was saying about, being contrarian but walking with everybody. This might be one where we're being contrarian in hopefully a more off the beaten path kind of a way. And we get interesting around JJ Weatherholt. At 43, at 34, the 9 home runs, the 7 steals, the 362 on base, 361 xWOB under an already good 345 actual. Technically, there's 4 straight positive run creators at the top of this lineup right now. Tremendously so. That's an average 4-man 135 WRC plus. Herrera remains very fairly priced where you need the catcher spot. He was excellent last year. He's been very good this year. 7 home runs, a 391 on base. Creating runs 37% better than the average player by WRC plus. don't really understand why he's not like a $5,000 catcher over there. 36 on FanDuel is like the equivalent of about a $5,000 catcher. Alec Burleson at 38, again, not really priced up for a decent start to his year. 243 plate appearances now. We're at 281, 350, 438. The numbers have cooled somewhat, but those are still very strong numbers. 346 weighted on base with a solid 376 under the surface. Could be more to come. He could turn it right on again. 9.9% barrel, 46.4% hard hit. Jordan Walker at just 4,900 is slipping a little bit price-wise. Not really performance-wise. 15 homers, 7 stolen bases, a 290, 357, 551 slash. 379 xWOBA under his 394 WOBA. Sure, there's a little room to come down. But even if he was right on the line where he's, what his X says he should be, it would be a fantastic year. We'd be talking about the monster breakout in the same terms. FanDuel still got him at 4,000. Nolan Gorman's just 2,600 monster power upside. If we're just hunting for somebody who can provide one good batted ball event against Jacob deGrom, Gorman is on that list. Gorman's also somebody who can strike out 3 times against Jacob deGrom. Easily. 30.6% strikeout this year is actually down several points from the 3 previous seasons. But Gorman creates big batted ball events when he connects. Mason Wynn, just a mix and match shortstop, if that. Tremendously overrated player overall. Jimmy Crooks, dead min price at catcher. I guess we'll give that a look. Let me hit this while I'm doing that. See what else came in. I think we looked at Jimmy the other day. Yeah, got called up with 13 home runs already in his pocket down on the farm. 177 plate appearances. 262, 412, 567 slash line. He's a 24-year-old, but for a catcher, that's right on track. Or it's not a bad age to be playing at AAA. Let's put it that way. Last season, in 430 chances at AAA, 14 homers. Had 11 in AA the year before. Is just a 22-year-old. 12 the year before that in 2023 across A ball and high A. So is hit for a fair amount of power coming up through the minors. Organizationally, they're fourth ranked overall prospect. Light as far as the traditional scouting numbers go, more fielding oriented catcher as far as that, but has shown us at least a little bit to get interested in as far as the upside for power. Oh, and now we have the lineup, and he is actually in it. So that's good. Lefty at the dead min at the catcher spot. That's always going to be at least a little bit interesting to have a dead min price catcher on DK. On FanDuel at 28, you're just throwing darts at the bottom of the Cardinals lineup against Jacob deGrom, so it's probably not all that great an idea. But it's at least a mixer on DraftKings. 3 plate appearances so far in the show, no success to show for it, but a 50% hard hit rate. And then Victor Scott, entirely skippable at the bottom of the lineup. deGrom, Rangers bats. There's too much point per dollar value there. Top of the Cardinals lineup in a contrarian way. Michael McGreevy, bottom of the Cardinals lineup. Can I do that? It's my show. I can do whatever I want. I just don't really like McGreevy. On DraftKings, like I said before, that's how I should have split it. McGreevy on DraftKings, definitely above the Cardinals bats. McGreevy on FanDuel, though, at 84, don't love it. Rocks, Angels, no lineups here. One really good option, one really bad option. Pretty simple. You can see some of that coming through in the home run model for the Angels. They were the number 2 stack on the board in basically every sense, through game sims, through my numbers, through the power index. Massive, massive upside for power for the Angels. They're going up against Kyle Freeland. Kyle's allowing a 9% barrel on a 15.1 degree average launch on the year, a 90.3 mile an hour average exit velo, and a 5.93% home run rate so far, which if you're not familiar, is pretty high. Last season, Freeland, 3.10% home runs, but it came on pretty similar. Robust contact, was pretty lucky to be at that 3.10. Year before, 4.49 on, again, very similar type contact. This is a super targetable pitcher when it comes to power. Some of those numbers, of course, come in Coors Field. This is a Rockies pitcher, but still very targetable, especially with all the right-handed power that lurks in this Angels lineup. Potentially great day for the Angels, 475 implied total. They should be pretty popular today, but there are good ways to build with this team that people won't necessarily use quite as much as some of the other guys. You see that all the time. Mike Trout comes in massively owned, Neto gets some attention as a high-end shortstop, and then it already starts thinning out around Soler and Adele, let alone Vaughn Grissom, who's interesting up top. Ozzy Peraza is going to be lower owned than he ought to be. Jose Citi is going to be lower owned than he ought to be. So they get really interesting really quickly, even on days where they're popular. The Rockies at a 335 implied total, really tough argument to make. Jose Soriano, even if he's not finding the peak upside that he was at the beginning of the season, even if he walks a few of these guys, he's so good at restricting power and keeping the ball in the yard, inducing weak and medium contact. And when you add in that the Rockies feed you strikeout upside, it's just a Jose Soriano day. It's not really a good option for the Rockies. Even in a contrarian sense, it's just so less than likely to succeed that I think you're undercutting what your profitability would be on that type of a play. So just doesn't hit that board well for me. If you do choose to go in that direction, Jake McCarthy in the leadoff role, hitting for average. The on-base percentage is pretty pedestrian. 333 weighted on base, but a 309 xWOB under the surface tells you about the forthcoming decline. Tyler Freeman is actually pretty decent. 279, 354, 364. Good at limiting strikeout. Doesn't draw a ton of walks, so you get a lot of balls in play. They're not overly well struck, but he's good at succeeding on BABIP. Somewhat reliable for a hit tool type player. Miscast in the 2 spot, but if you're getting him just for correlated scoring ahead of a Johnston, a Goodman, a Tovar, somebody like that, then you've got a little bit there. But again, it's a bad idea to go to this team today. Johnston at 39.27, hitting for average, getting on at a 368 clip, a 113 WRC plus, one of 2 positive contributors. Hunter Goodman is barely clinging to positive, 102 WRC plus. He's cratering 339 weighted on base, but a 298 xWOB under the surface. Has 13 home runs, has a great barrel rate, a respectable hard hit rate, not great, but respectable, but striking out nearly 35% of the time when you're only walking 6.7 is unsustainably bad. You are not a 3 true outcomes player if you're doing that. Last year it was totally manageable, 26% strikeout. That's fine against 5.7 if you're hitting all those home runs. Right now, little bit out of sorts. Still 33 on FanDuel, 42 as a catcher on DK is fine. FanDuel, you get to plunk him into the outfield for that price. He's still probably their best upside guy, but there's a lot of warts showing on Hunter Goodman. Willie Castro, mix and match piece across multiple positions on both sides for a fair price. Pulled his season together, but you still don't get all that much upside. Still striking out too much as well overall for the year, but hitting the ball effectively hard, 46.1% hard hit rate on the year. Castro could get into a lineup, one of the more reliable types in this ugly Rockies lineup. Ezequiel Tovar does have the ability to drive the ball. It's just very infrequently. Pretty likely strikeout victim, pretty likely to drive the ball into the ground and not find success, even if he makes contact. Sterling Thompson, mix and match. Kyle Karros, less than, and Edward Julian, maybe also interesting. You're just looking to maybe exploit the walk rate, 11.9% for him against the 10.7 that's been Soriano's lone ugly point so far this year. Maybe you could use Eddie Julian from the bottom of the lineup as a wraparound type piece. He's only getting on at a 306 clip, completely defies that walk rate. It's because he's not hitting for any kind of average, not finding any success via BABIP, though he is hitting the ball actually pretty hard and kind of in character with what he's done in seasons past. So he's at least an interesting guy if he's hitting in the bottom of the lineup. You can stuff him into second base for a fair price. Soriano was the talking point, though. 27% strikeout, a still great 2.65 ERA, even though it's come up significantly. The 3.40 xWOB with the 3.63 SIERA were already lingering in that type territory. He's going to put some guys on base via the walk, but he's good at punching his way out of trouble, 13.6% swinging. And again, excellent at inducing the ground ball, getting out of trouble, pitching efficiently. 7+, tremendous upside for a deep start with a handful of strikeouts, upside for a quality start. Everything's in play for Soriano in this one. And then just throw Angels bats at Freeland. Zach Neto at 5,000 to 3,500 has 10 home runs, a 339 on base, 341 weighted on base, a concerning just average 323 xWOBA that we got to keep our eye on as time goes on. But there's tons and tons of talent there. There's tons of power. He's coming in at 11.67, makes him number 2 on the team in the home run model behind Mike Trout, 5,900, 3,900. The home run pick of the day, if I forgot to mention, does come from these Angels. It's not Mike Trout, though. I was tempted, but nah. 14 on the season, having a monster year at 242, 410, 493. Looking a lot like the old version of Mike Trout. Not old Mike Trout, but Old Mike Trout. 21.2% barrel rate on the year, crushing baseballs when he makes contact. More to give us, too. He's got a 423 xWOBA under his 394 actual. Still a superstar. Absolutely belongs in the vast majority of Angel stacks that you build. Vaughn Grissom is really interesting. 31 at third base on DraftKings. I don't want him all that much at first, but at third base, that's interesting. Second base eligibility at 2,800 to go with his shortstop positioning, where again, I don't really want him. I think that's interesting at second base on FanDuel for the cheap price. Gives you a little correlated scoring upside with this team. 46.4% hard hit rate on the year over 141 plate appearances. Respectable, not great barrel rate at 6.3, but for the type of player he is, he's found the barrel a few times. He's hit 3 home runs. He's got a 309 weighted on base, which is not good. It's well below average, but a 338 xWOBA kind of lurking under the surface. Doesn't really strike out, 9.9%, draws an adequate walk rate at 9.2%. There's interesting upside there. That's a player from the 3 spot. That's an appropriate spot to have him in the lineup. You might end up with Ozzy Peraza in that spot. Ozzy's been really interesting. If he's hitting third, that gives him a little bit of additional upside from what you see here. If he's hitting sixth, I think it renders him lower owned than he would be hitting third because people are aware that Ozzy's having an interesting year. Still a part-time player, but he's getting regular action now with Jean Moncada on the IL. I think we do see Ozzy in the lineup for sure. I'm kind of hoping he hits sixth, though, so he falls off people's radar a little bit. Maybe they go to Vaughn Grissom a little bit more. Be an interesting back and forth there with Ozzy at a cheaper price, filling the same positions, but also adding third base. I'm fine with a lineup that comes up with both of them, but on FanDuel, that takes one of the big bats out of the way. So I probably don't want it all that often, or takes multiple big bats out of the way. On DraftKings, where you get 5 options, then maybe you get more lineups that come up with both. But ultimately, you want to work Jorge Soler in there at 3,900, 2,900. He's carrying a 10 plus in the home run model, 9 on the season. Otherwise, the slash line, pretty lacking. 304 weighted on base, 308 xWOBA. No real reliability in Jorge Soler, but you're really just fishing for the one big batted ball event. And he can definitely deliver that, especially against this pitcher. But he's also not the home run pick of the day because the home run pick of the day, next up, Mr. Jo Adell. I think I've used him already this year. He's been a little bit lacking in the power output on the season. We've talked about this a bunch. 9 home runs on the year is not bad, but it's not where we expected him over 249 plate appearances. We definitely didn't expect just a 281 on base. 237, 281, 388. Pretty poor slash line overall. Just an 85 WRC plus. Pretty weak. But has an excellent looking 335 xWOBA under that ugly 296 actual. Again, 320 is about league average. So we're talking about 15 points over versus significantly below. We know that Jo Adell is better than he's been. We know what the ridiculous power ceiling looks like. Barrels are well down. Hard hits are closer. 49.6 down to 46% this year. Barrels are basically cut in half. 17.2 down to 8.5%. That's where most of our power output has gone. But even these are still at least okay numbers that can deliver a home run. And we know that the real version of Jo Adell is the guy who's done that for premium contact over time. There's massive upside in Jo Adell against this pitcher, against any lefty really, and against just a lot of pitchers in general. Looking over the last handful, again, not that this actually means much. 3 of his 9 home runs have come in the last 46 plate appearances. Maybe starting to heat up for a little bit more power output, which is good because the slash line is cratered around that. 182, 217, 432 over those same 46 plate appearances. But does have a 250 ISO over that stretch. Has a 396 xWOBA under the 282 actual. So just still struggling with on base and average even more so in this recent stretch. But the power hopefully slowly starting to emerge. Makes me really interested in getting to a still cheap Jo Adell 28 on FanDuel, 35 on DraftKings, your home run pick of the day going against Kyle Freeland. My hope is we get him a little more lightly owned than maybe Soler, than Mike Trout, than Zach Neto. One of the top options on my slate. Again, Peraza's been real interesting. Second base, 3,726 on FanDuel. 277, 339, 465 for the former top-end Yankees prospect. Getting a shot here, 7 homers, 6 stolen bases. Carrying a 356 weighted on base, but a 328 xWOBA. That's who he probably actually is. He's just a round and average guy who maybe delivers some counting stats. Think Sedan Rafaela type talent maybe. But that's better than the guy who wasn't even playing. That's an interesting bat, 125 WRC plus on the year, and he's very affordable. Again, if he climbs the lineup, I think in the 3 spot, he's interesting for different reasons, but maybe more owned. kind of like him sneakily in 6, and that's a player capable of hitting a big home run too. Jose City is a player capable of hitting a big home run. He's hit some interesting DFS home runs throughout those seasons. As we go back, the slash lines are going to look ugly. So far in 19 plate appearances this year, he's got a home run on the board. He's got a good slash line. When we look back, 36 really bad plate appearances last year, but we'll skip those. Going back in time to 2024, he slashed 187, 255, 366 that year. I told you, it's going to be ugly. But over 448 plate appearances, he hit 18 home runs. He stole 14 bases. For fantasy, that's not uninteresting. 50 runs, 47 ribbies. That's a player. It's a guy who can give you good fantasy days. The year before that was equally bad in the slash line, 222, 267, but a 494 slug, a 272 ISO, even had a 106 WRC plus despite the atrocious on base because he hit 25 home runs and stole 12 bases in those 364 plate appearances. That's a damn good fantasy season in limited action. So for 24, for 21, if we're fishing around for people that the field isn't going to get excited to go to, Jose City from the right side against this bad lefty, major source of potential value, assuming he's in the Angels lineup at all today, which he should be. Logan O'Hoppe, 2,600. Major premium contact upside for cheap at the catcher spot on DraftKings. I don't know why he's so cheap in this spot. 2 home runs on the season, 207, 301, 293. Well, that's probably why. I knew he was having a bad year, but 19 home runs in 451 plate appearances last year. Year before, hit 20 home runs in 522 chances. This is not a player from whom we're looking for a good slash line. We're looking for one good batted ball event from Logan O'Hoppe, more than capable of giving it to you. Cheap pricing. He's got an 11.5% barrel rate on the season. That's really all I care about. Excellent upside for power from him. And then Nick Madrigal, just a mix and match type guy from the bottom of the lineup. Nick has a total of 4 home runs and 17 stolen bases over 947 major league plate appearances in 288 games and is now 29 years old, for those of you who remember him from once upon a time being kind of a high-end prospect. Didn't really make it. These Angels have been great at getting the rust off of other people's quarters and nickels and dimes and turning them into a little something. Maybe that happens with 29-year-old past post hype sleeper Nick Madrigal. My money's against. Jose Soriano, Angels bats, Jose Soriano, whichever order you want it. I moved Soriano up just because of the lack of burns now. I think that's appropriate, but Angels number 2 stack of the day, monster power upside. Excellent option. Don't use Kyle Freeland. Rockies are 3rd on that list. Dodgers, your top stack of the day at a matching total at 475 to what the Angels are pulling in. They're going up against Erod, our old pal. Erod's pitched great this year. Can't take it away from him with that 2.31 ERA, but a 4.17 xFIP, a 4.54 Sierra. There's a firm argument to be made against. 18% strikeout against a 9.2% walk rate isn't good, just an 8.8 strikeout minus walk. Again, we're looking for 20 for excellence there. Has been limiting premium contact well, though. 1.84% home run rate on limited barrels, just a 35.9% hard hit rate. Been somewhat effective at limiting to ground balls, line drive trajectory. 89.47 measurement by stuff plus is problematic. Another guy who's just locating really well. We've talked about Erod forgoing the strikeout this year, really not going for it, just kind of in the rocking chair, locating, but getting through games, putting up decent innings. In his last start, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 5 hits against Colorado, struck out 8 in that one. That was his second 8 strikeout performance of the season. He had a 10 strikeout day against the Cubbies. A couple of 6s along the way. Oh, sorry. No, I'm reading Emmett Sheehan. I was like, I didn't think he had spiked a 10 strikeout day. 6 strikeouts last time out over 6. 2 earned runs. That was against San Francisco. The start before that was against Colorado for him. That's where I got mixed up. 4 strikeouts over 7 innings in that one. Yeah, this is more Erod. The peak was 7 strikeouts over 7 innings against Pittsburgh. This is a lot more Erod. And then a handful of 4 strikeout, 3 strikeout days. Sub 20% strikeout on the year. A 10 strikeout game was a little bit of a curveball there for me for a second. Emmett Sheehan on the other side, though, has a 10 strikeout game. Couple of 8 strikeout games. You might have heard. Kid's good. 27.2% strikeout rate on the season, over 51 2/3 in 10 starts. My mouse is frozen. Hold on. 27-2 against the 6.5% walk rate, pretty good, inducing a 15.5% swinging strike rate, downright interesting. 4.70 ERA, but a very appealing 3.26 xFIP, 3.20 Sierra. Go out and buy low on Emmett Sheehan if you can in season long. Kid is good. Use him in DFS. 384 implied total for the Diamondbacks. The only real thing working against Sheehan here is the ballpark and then like the top three hitters in this lineup. I will give Nolan Arenado a little bit of credit. He's put together a better 200 plate appearances than I thought any 200 plate appearances from this season would look like. 7 home runs on the year, a 269, 350, 451 slash line, a 125 WRC plus. Little bit of power output with the 7 homers. Again, continuing to defy xWOBA at 333 with a 353 actual sitting on the surface. Not hitting the ball particularly well at all. 6.5% barrel, 31.7% hard hit. The barrels are up somewhat. That's where the little uptick of power comes from. The hard hit slightly down year over year from his concerning dip that year, from his concerning dip the year before. This is once upon a time MVP caliber type talent. He is back in and benefiting, if you look at the numbers, from this hitter-friendly environment in Arizona. He actually made his way back to my dynasty team because he only cost $5 and somebody dropped him the waivers today. So our old pal Nolan Arenado back with his buddies Austin Riley and Eugenio Suarez filling third base, corner infield, and util on the fantasy team. He's even starting this week because they're at home. But I think it's mostly benefiting from the home ballpark. I said the other day I was going to take a look, and I did. The swing has actually gotten slower. The fast swing rate has gotten slower or lower. I think it all comes crashing down. I continue to believe that. But if we're building DFS lineups, which we are, I think, 3,900, 3,000, they have not put any sort of tax on this. So he's easily in play and could give a young pitcher like Emmett Sheehan a bit of a problem because he doesn't strike out, never has. Technically, the 19% strikeout rate is egregiously high for Nolan Arenado. 9% walk rate is okay. That's actually up a couple points over the last few years. So I just think he could be an interesting impact against Emmett Sheehan here to fill out around Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, Geraldo Perdomo, the guys you really want to get to. Perdomo's had a terrible start to his year and has been slowed around into form. 323 xWOBA is at least around the average under the surface, but it's been problematic. 3 home runs. I think he hit one over the weekend. Is limiting strikeouts and drawing walks in interesting ways, but his lack barrel, 6.2 down to 3.5%. The 31.2% hard hit is right in line with where he was last year, but we need to find out in a hurry whether he's last year's Geraldo Perdomo or the guy that was just kind of interesting for some on base, for some low strikeouts, some decent BABIP type days in seasons past. Right now, he's looking like that guy. 4,100, 3,100. At least he's cheap. Still a filler option at short. Benefit from the ballpark here. Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte are stars. Marte had a slow start to his year, but 262, 318, 452, 9 home runs now, 375 xWOBA, a long way to go to reach that, but he's up to a 337 actual, 114 WRC plus. Carroll's just been good. The home run power's been down, been talking about that since before opening day. 7 on the season with 7 stolen bases, not bad at all, and the slash line's tremendous. The run creation output has been great. Weighted on base numbers are fine. Even the barrel rate and the hard hits are great. But I do think the home run comes up a little bit short of expectation just because of that hamate bone injury from spring training. Ryan Waldschmidt, mix and match talent so far in the outfield. 5 stolen bases, high-end prospect for this organization, getting on base at a 346 clip over his first 82 plate appearances. Interesting enough player for a cheap price in the outfield if you're choosing to attack Emmett Sheehan. He can be a part of the plan. And I do think, again, going back to the discussion about contrarian for contrarian's sake, or contrarian with a at least decent lineup in a at least decent situation, I think, especially with Emmett Sheehan probably climbing the board at a cheap price with ceiling, with Chase Burns departing the slate, the Diamondbacks are a good team in a good ballpark. Situationally, there's reason to consider them. Sheehan's a fly ball oriented pitcher as well, who gives up a 9.2% barrel. He's been great at inducing weak and medium contact overall, but there are some interesting batted ball events on the table. 4.15% home run rate kind of comes from that. When he makes mistakes, they can get out of the ballpark. So it gets a little bit interesting around these Diamondbacks too, with where they're priced and with some of the interesting bats. Adrian Del Castillo, Gabriel Moreno, the 2 back and forth options at catcher. Right now, Moreno's been the more interesting player overall, but Del Castillo does have the ability to drive the ball. Comes in cheaper, going to be lower owned than his counterpart. Ilimaro Vargas dropping down the lineup in a hurry, 4,100 at first base. You just don't want that. 3,200 across positions. If you're rostering this team already, then fine, you can mix them in, but just consider him a low-end second baseman. Don't think that he was that guy from the beginning of the season. He was never that guy. It's already coming down around the edges, 341 weighted on base with a 319 xWOB under the surface, down to 295, 321, 465. He's never going to hit 7 home runs in as few games as he did earlier this season. Might not hit another one the rest of the way. Tommy Troy, just a mix and match type guy at the bottom of your lineup. Then I didn't actually talk through the Dodgers lineup. We all know these guys, don't we? Shohei Ohtani, with as much talk as there is about the lack of quality at the plate from him this year, he's still got a 149 WRC plus. He's carrying a 406 xWOB under a 387 actual. He's hit 10 home runs, 280, 402, 493. That's a star caliber slash line by any measure. It's just not Shohei Ohtani. 65-41. He's still fully priced. He's carrying a 20 in the home run model, doubling up the magic number. Massive upside against Erod. Andy Pye has a 55 at 37, 13 homers in, and a great start to his year, 242 excellent plate appearances, climbing the lineup to the 2 spot where we kind of expected to find Kyle Tucker most of the year. Really interesting option up there, 360 weight, xWOB under his 380 actual. A little bit of room to come down, but will remain tremendous even if he does, and no sign of slowing down, really. Freddie Freeman at 48 at 33, 8 home runs, still a tremendous bat at first base, a little bit cheaper than he used to be. Still a big price tag to reach when you're combining it with all these other guys, but Freddie's absolutely worth it. Still one of the best bats on this elite squad. Mookie Betts at 44 at 31 remains cheap. Sub Mendoza right now, that won't last. 259 on base, won't last. 408 slug, 6 home runs, 214 ISO. He's hit for a little bit of power. 9.4% barrel. The consistency's just not been there, but hopefully that renders him a little bit lower owned than he should be because he's at an appealing price. Phil shortstop from the most desirable team of the day. 332 xWOB under the 293 actual. Kyle Tucker's underperformed expectations, underperformed the salary for sure. 4 home runs, 4 steals, but he's going to turn it on at some point like that, and there's going to be no slowing him down. So continue going there. He has been, at least on FanDuel, at fair prices and lower owned than he ought to be for that money. So love the option, love the upside. Will Smith, a lot of barrels out of the catcher. 6 home runs in 185 plate appearances. Excellent slash line, 110 WRC plus. Nothing to be concerned about there. Always affordable. 39. I don't get it where you have to play the position. Miguel Rojas, Alex Call, and Santiago Espinal, if that's what you get at the bottom of the lineup. They're all really mix and matchers. Alex Call's kind of interesting against any lefty. Hits for a little bit of average. Right now, no home runs on the season, but getting on at a 417 clip. If you're just looking for a wraparound guy, Alex Call's your man from down here. Bring him back up toward the top to Shohei Ohtani, Paez, Freeman, etc. Dodgers bats. Sheehan. Diamondbacks bats. Erod is just a dart throw. It's really only on DraftKings at 75, 86 against the Dodgers. I'm pretty skeptical you could squeeze any kind of quality out of that from Erod, but he has surprised us before, including basically every start this year. Closing things out with the low-end total game, but the interesting frisky Mets in game sims. This one's been frustrating me all day. Emerson Hancock, admittedly pitching above his head all season long. 2.78 ERA, but still a 3.38 xFIP, a 3.35 Sierra. Even if he was pitching to those numbers, very good. 25.1% strikeout against just 6% walk, basically in the mold of what we see from all these Mariners pitchers. He has given up a little premium contact. That's feeding some upside for the Mets for sure. 9.4% barrel, 42.9% hard hit, nearly 90 miles an hour of exit velo. That's right on the line for our thresholds that we're looking for there. 2 out of the 3 above and 0.2 of a mile an hour below the exit velo one. 3.19% home run, arguably slightly lucky to be not at a 4%. But even with that, we'd be talking about how he's been limiting runs despite allowing a little bit of home run upside. The Mets have been, at best, extremely up and down this season. If we're being kind, they've been bad this season. Calling them up and down, not really fair to you guys. 175 WRC plus for Juan Soto because he's Juan Soto. Right now, a 140 on Jared Young in 39 plate appearances, which is very nice for him, but probably won't last. Those are your only 2 guys above average for run creation for this Mets team this season, for one thing. We expect a lot more from Bo Bichette, but at 69 WRC plus, 219, 275, 308 on the season, we are not getting it. He did see a little bit of a surge, a little bit of an uptick. He's not striking out. He's putting the ball in play with frequency. He's even hitting it fairly well. 45.7% hard hit rate, not bad. 7.6% barrel is right next to the 7.9 that he had last season in a tremendous year where he hit 18 home runs, had a ridiculously good slash line. Just been a little bit unlucky or extremely unlucky. 333 xWOBA under the 264 actual shows the underperformance. I still expect the big turnaround from Bichette. It's just we've been waiting for quite a while. 4,300, 2,800. At least he's gotten cheap. Like him better on FanDuel because he fits third base over there. Makes it really interesting putting these guys together with like the Angels, let's say. Carson Benj at the top of the board, as mentioned way back at the beginning of the show. We've been talking for a while now. These Mets simmed out interestingly, and Carson Benj from the leadoff spot in this projected was a part of that. Very cheap, 3,500, 2,900, 4 home runs, 9 stolen bases, a 339 xWOB under his lackluster 306 actual, 97 WRC plus, but obviously a lot of room to grow. 8.6% barrel and 44.7% hard hit makes him really interesting. Put him together with Bo Bichette, with Soto, and then you're picking. I like Mark Vientos a lot. I think AJ Ewing is interesting. I think Brett Beatty is interesting. The guy that came up more, though, was Jared Young. And given the pricing, I can buy it. It's only 39 plate appearances again, but he's made really interesting contact in those opportunities. 19.2% barrel, 50% hard hit. Last year, I had a 14% barrel. That was over just a few plate appearances as well, 47 of them, but he hit 4 home runs in that stretch. He's shown a little bit of interesting upside for just batted ball events in the show, if nothing else, and there's really not that much else. Vientos has always been good for batted ball events. Double-digit barrel rates each of the last 3 years with significant hard hit rates. He's doing that again this season. The output really hasn't been there at 225, 260, 390. It's problematic. 7 home runs. Just a 326 xWOBA, but I'll take that against a 286 actual. There's 40 points of underperformance for you there. AJ Ewing's hit the ball in interesting ways over 74 plate appearances. Also stolen 4 bases. Handful of home runs and a bunch of stolen bases is kind of the nature of his game, but it's nice to see the hard hits are there. A lot of strikeouts so far, but he's drawing walks against it, so it's not really been a problem for the young kid. 94 WRC plus is lacking. 301 weighted on base is lacking, but the 325 xWOBA is encouraging. Brett Beatty, another guy you're just looking for one good batted ball event from the left side, capable of delivering that. Had a decent partial season last year, 300-something, 432 plate appearances, 18 home runs, and okay slash line. And then Marcus Semien and Luis Torrens, just kind of dead spots at the bottom of the lineup. Torrens is very cheap if you're just looking to fill the position and hope for one base hit, but that's about all you get. And Semien's just been dead. 5 home runs, 5 stolen bases in 233 plate appearances, and 8.2% barrel, I guess, if you need something to cling to. Sub 20% strikeout. Throw in darts if you go to Marcus Semien. On the Mariners side, they're going up against Austin Warren as a pure opener, and then Sean Manaea, who I should put on the board here. Where is the other Mets guy? There he is. So if you do that, those numbers get reduced. These Mariners bats come down slightly. 368 implied total for them. On the year, Manaea pitching 34 innings in all relief. There we go. Now they changed. Actually, gain a little power on Julio. That's not surprising. Switching to the righty-lefty. 23.8% strikeout rate on the season over 34 innings from Manaea. Walking too many at 9.4%. It's kind of the nature of his game. A 5.56 ERA, but a better xFIP. Even better Sierra. There is a good pitcher under the surface here. There is a guy we've succeeded with in the past. He's only 5,500 if you're throwing darts at 5 innings of Sean Manaea for that price. You could do worse. It's a very pitcher-friendly park. It's a pitcher-friendly lineup with plenty of strikeout for him to go exploit. Last season, he struck out 28.1% against a 3.9% walk rate with a 12.5% swinging strike rate. Better across the board in 11 starts, 59 innings, 5.80 ERA, but a 3.28 xFIP. There's quality in Sean Manaea. We've seen it over the years. We know that he can succeed in this bulk relief role. It's going to come down to what kind of innings pitch do you get for your 5,500. Everything else is aligned for whatever those innings look like to be at least somewhat successful. I don't love that idea of throwing darts at an unknown commodity of innings, but it is there for you if you like that approach on DK. FanDuel, I wouldn't touch it at 71. Mariners bats against, again, with the right-handed power upside that Julio Rodriguez offers you with a 9% barrel, 42.6% hard hit on the year, a dozen home runs. Coming against a lefty in bulk relief, there's upside there. 202 ISO for Julio on the season, 125 WRC plus. Hasn't been as bad as his start might have been, as bad as advertised, and has certainly caught on in recent weeks. Randy Arozarena has hit the ball squarely all season, carrying this team, 15 stolen bases, 6 home runs, an excellent 373 on base, but some of that's come down somewhat. I think it was in the 390s like 2 weeks ago. 341 xWOBA shows there's further decline potentially to come. 366 actual, though. He's been tremendous. Excellent righty bat for a fair price against the lefty bulk reliever. Naylor, assuming he's in the lineup, which he should be, 45, 3,000, 5 home runs, 12 steals. A little bit of underperformance going on for Josh Naylor, 333 xWOBA under that ugly 296 actual tells us that we should expect a big uptick. If we get Rob Refsnyder, because there's a lefty bulk reliever coming, he would be an interesting wrinkle just for his platoon upside. Has not found any success in 86 plate appearances in that role this year. But you can mix him in just to target Sean Manaea. You might be more likely to see Refsnyder pinch hit later in the game than actually start this one. But we'll try and fetch those lineups and see if we get them. Cole Young, mix and match option. 244, 318, 359, nothing overly special, 99 WRC plus on the year. Mitch Garver gives you the ability to drive the ball from the right side. Victor Robles maybe mixes in for a couple base hits, maybe a little stolen base upside. Hasn't delivered a ton. Well, 25 plate appearances. We got to give him a chance. Last season, just 1 home run, 6 steals, 245, 281, 330, and what amounted to 114 plate appearances. Not a big part of the offense here. And then Colt Emerson, their high-end prospect to end the show, 3,400, 3,000. Shortstop and third base eligible. I prefer him at third as he finds his footing. He's already got 2 home runs on the board in just 47 chances, 340 on base. They paid this kid before he had his first major league plate appearance for a reason. There's a lot of talent here. So he's going to probably climb the lineup sooner than later. We might see him hitting where Cole Young is projected to hit, and that would make him even more appealing. 368 implied total in a pitcher park against a good bulk reliever. Doesn't rocket the Mariners toward the top of the board, but I wouldn't call you crazy for rostering some. That said, I'm going to give it to Emerson Hancock on DraftKings. Mets bats just because of how they keep coming up in the damn game sims. Mariners bats. Emerson Hancock on DraftKings, Mets bats, Emerson Hancock on FanDuel, Mariners bats. And then Sean Manaea as a dart SP2 type play in bulk relief on DK. Kid Kobe, it's going well. Happy Monday to you, buddy. We just got through. Meech just got here. Meech says, damn, I missed the whole show. Cub says Fangraphs doesn't seem to hate the Rockies as much as I want it to. He didn't, and it didn't like Soriano as much as he would like it to. I saw that on Soriano. I didn't catch that the Rockies were coming through better. Did the Mets come through in weird ways for you too, or is that just me? Again, that's via this Fangraphs game sims that know nothing about my projections or numbers when I run them, but they were coming up in weird ways for me. That's the one totally in defiance of Vegas. In defiance of Emerson Hancock's been good and is at least fairly talented. Again, probably more around this low 3s, 3.5, even 4-run type pitcher. Coming in opening day, I would have told you he was a 4-run pitcher. Today, I'm willing to say 3.5 and 3 and change. So just the upside they're showing through sims and through some of my numbers are just kind of clicking. 15.45 in the home run model for Juan Soto for one thing. Didn't get a lot of Mets for Cubs. Cubs has been finding a lot of success lately. You might want to listen to him. Again, it's in defiance of everything. I think I've got him 4th on the board, 4th or 5th on the stacks board, but they were like 12th by Vegas total. Not a good situation. Pitcher-friendly park. I don't love it. Ducky wants to see the KC and Cincinnati game. Sure. Why not? There you are, buddy. So this is before any change for Chase Burns. What you're going to see is Kansas City's going to gain some ground as far as their projections go, their home run numbers go. I would imagine their Vegas total's gone up already. Burns coming off the mound into an opener follower situation. We'll get that all sorted out in the update as soon as I end the show here. It's only 4:22. We got plenty of time. The red side of things, they're going up against Luinder Avila here. 491 implied total. Tons and tons of upside, even without Ellie. Maybe it drives people away for not having Ellie, but we've got the big debut of his replacement, Edwin Arroyo, down the bottom of the lineup. Can't wait for them to play side by side. A lot of power and speed-based upside, and he is min-priced, hopefully hiding from people down the bottom of the lineup. Don't sleep on him. Matty McLean's just kind of a mixer, but does give you a good counting stat upside. Stevenson, good premium contact for one good batted ball event from the catcher spot. You can do a lot worse on DK. And then, like everybody up here, has been just kind of straightforward and obvious. Sal Stewart's been mostly elite through the season. Gino Suarez hit 40-some-odd home runs last year. Nathaniel Lowe goes through interesting stretches, and he's in the midst of one right now and making great contact with it. Blake Dunn's just kind of a mix and match guy up top, and Blade has just been downright elite from the left side for power this season. In their ballpark, monster total. Love the upside. This is a hitter-friendly environment. The one thing about it is that Luis Davila, for the last year plus, going from AAA up to the majors, has been pretty good at keeping the ball in the yard. That's the one impact you're seeing through the home run model here. 8.68 for Gino is your high water mark. That could be a little bit of an illusion. I tried to account for that. Small sample still for Avila. Yeah, I just haven't had a chance to put him in, Ducky. What's the opener's name? Richardson? Lion Richardson? Richardson's going to come in at 4,000 with an empty stat line. Has he not pitched in the show? What I read when we first called it out with the breaking news was that he's just opening. So I don't think he's going to be in play. Yeah, Reds announced that he's just going to open. It looks like he does. Sometimes we see this when I update the hitter stats every day, because hitters change every day. Typically, so since we're looking at starters, I don't update the pitching board until every 5 days, every 3 to 5 days. So this kid pitched over the weekend on the 30th. He threw 2/3 of an inning, struck somebody out, but gave up a solo home run against the Braves. So you're getting nothing more than an inning out of this kid out of Lion Richardson as an opener. So I wouldn't sweat it. But just to actually answer the question, in 34 appearances for the Reds last year, 37 2/3, all out of the bullpen, had a 4.54 ERA with a 4.60 xFIP, struck out just 17.4% against a 12.2% walk rate. So there is really nothing good here. Feeds upside for the first few hitters in the Royals lineup, the fact that he's even opening at all. He is a right-handed pitcher, which, again, feeds upside towards some of those lefties. Carter Jensen, yes. Vinny Pescatino, yes. Jack Caglianone, love it. You can get to Jack against that pitcher, woo, now you're talking. The Royals are way more interesting than they started the day as. What did their total go up to? I like when we have time because we can wrap around and do the whole show again. Let's see. Yeah, this went up by a full run. All right, so you see where this is now, right? So this went to 9.5. The Royal side came down. Reds are still favored, but now it's not 162 minus 177. It is 115 minus 124. So you got up to a 4.5 run total there for the Reds. So they gained, I was saying half a run earlier. They gained almost a full run with that switch. Reds come down slightly at 503, but still. Oh, no, they went up. They also went up 496 to 503. Less gain for the Reds, obviously, than the Royals side of it. So massive uptick for the Royals. Oh, duh. You're not seeing that translate because I forgot to copy because these live over here. So you'll see minimal impact because this isn't drawing against Lion Richardson. It's still drawing against Chase Burns because that needs to come from a different spot. But monster total gain for the Royals, and they move up the board pretty significantly as far as their appeal here. Any other ones you guys want to go through? Hit the like and subscribe to the channel. There's a little thumbs up button. It's like right down there. It'll take you half a second. Just go scroll down, hit it. Bunch of people watching. If you haven't noticed, scrolling across the bottom of your screen, there's probably fewer than 30 remaining, but promo code CubsWin, all one word, capital C, capital W. Check out at subscription, at checkout on a new weekly subscription. That'll make the first week of a weekly entirely free. Eagles are trading A.J. Brown to the Patriots for a first rounder and a 2028 first rounder, 2027 fifth rounder. So long, A.J. Brown. So yeah, free first week with promo code CubsWin at checkout on a weekly. Doesn't have to be your first time subscribing, just has to be a new subscription. But an entirely free week. Thanks to our guy Dennis, XX Cubs fan in the chat there. Say thank you to him. He took down a nice FanDuel tournament, has been living in the top 10 on FanDuel all season long. Killing it this year. I'm jealous. Love it. Love to see the results. But Dennis sponsored a bunch of free weekly plans, so go grab one. They're sitting there for you guys to go take, entirely free. It will renew at full price, which is $6.90 sometime a week from now. If you don't cancel it first, you got the option to cancel it at any time. But hopefully you stick with. Hopefully you gain a lot and like it, and hopefully you go out and win yourself $10,000, and then you sponsor some more, and we grow and we grow. Check out Rotoscouts.com. Everything is always under $1 a day. That gives you access to all 4 major sports, every single main slate, baseball, basketball, hockey, all going on right now still. Basketball and hockey in the finals. Go Knicks. NFL, right around the damn corner. You can see trade day. A lot of moving parts today. So we'll be talking football before we know it. Tons of content, all under $1 a day, weekly, monthly, and quarterly. But the free ones right now, free first week. Promo code CubsWin, all one word. Tell your friends about the free week, as Cub says. Yeah, this is the guy who sponsored him. Say thank you, Dennis. Congratulate him on his big wins, on his successful season, on cracking DFS, whatever he's doing. He's done a great job this year. Good citizen in chat, too. He's always participating, whether it's in a fun way, making fun of people and being sarcastic, or actually from time to time dropping some pretty quality thoughts in there in Discord. Pretty good guy to have around. Check out the premium Discord. It's linked in the description for this video below. You don't have to subscribe on YouTube or at the website or anything. Just click the link, follow through Discord, and jump into our Discord channel. Come join the community. We're constantly talking shop, putting thoughts in there, ask questions in there. Love to build that community up even more. But yeah, check out the website again. Free weeks just sitting there for you. Go get them. I'll leave those open. They'll be there for you, but go grab one. Thank you, Andy. I'm just kind of taking my time ending the show here in case any questions pop up. 4:30. It's earlier than we usually get up. I know you guys got things to do, though, other shows to go watch, people with differing opinions. No trolls today to mess with. Surprised. Bunch of people came by. Appreciate every single one of the people who came by. Those of you who clicked the like button, click the subscribe to the channel, I appreciate just a slight bit more. And if you happen to be available in 2 minutes after the show ends, swing back around, reload YouTube, reload this page, leave a comment on the video. Really does help feed the algorithm. I appreciate it. Tell me I'm good. Tell me I'm bad. Tell me I suck. Tell me I'm dumb. Whatever you want. Tell me you don't want a free week. Whatever you want. Just leave a comment on the video. It does actually help. That in mind, gang. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do at Rotoscouts on Twitter or in the Discord, as I said, link below in the chat. And we will be back tomorrow for a what I'm sure is a more complete, larger, longer show to talk through a larger Tuesday slate. See you, gang.